Hey everybody, ladies and gentlemen, ducks and duckettes, how are ya? Welcome to the show. We are Chase and Myles, and we're at the Lucky Duck. Myles, who do we got on today?
You stole my ladies and gentlemen thing. Ladies and gentlemen, today is not a normal day. We have a very special guest. I've known her for a long time now. Our friendship started long before the formation of the Lucky Duck, actually. In fact, we met in high school. Sarah started her journey in Manhattan, where she moved to Florida with her parents and twin sister at an early age. From there, she quickly excelled at pretty much everything. After blowing through her first few years of high school, she started college early, eventually graduating from Florida State University and starting her next journey into optometry school. Along 4 years later, she graduated with honors, accepted and completed a residency at a very prestigious residency program in Boston, Massachusetts. She got married, traveled the world, and now she lives in Denver, Colorado, working as a pediatric optometrist, making the eye doctor visit a joy for every little boy and girl out there. And of course, I can't forget, living with her amazing and amazingly handsome husband and companion, also handsome, Yoshi the cat. All of us, including her grandfather Tuvia Belsky, rest in peace, are so proud of all the incredible things she's already accomplished. I can't say enough great things about her. This is my beautiful wife.
Aw, thanks, babe.
Welcome. What an intro. I feel like you covered
Yeah,
everything.
I feel like that was the longest intro.
I don't know if we have anything else to talk about.
Yeah, we're done.
Thanks, folks, for listening to the show. No, welcome.
Thank you.
Sarah, you brought some alcohol
I did.
to drink to help us get the conversation going. What did we prepare today?
So we have a Prosecco Saint Germain spritzer. That's pretty much all that's in it. And some soda water.
Very simple,
Yeah.
to the point. I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
bubbly.
Where'd you learn
It's-
about this one?
The internet. Yeah, it's good with pomegranate juice. That's how I made it before, but
Internet. I heard the internet knows some of that stuff.
they do. Yeah,
Yeah.
very good resource.
Yeah, for alcoholic cocktails. So, so Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Yeah. Where should we start? What do we want to talk about today?
Do you want to talk about how we met?
Sure. Yeah. So
Okay.
we met 10 years ago. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary.
Woo woo.
And I was 17, you were 16,
Yeah,
and can't remember the actual day that we met for the first time.
that's okay.
I know that we sat next to each other in class and we're both too shy to talk to each other.
Yeah, so cute.
And then
I'm embarrassed.
somehow we ended up here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, technically we were high school sweethearts, right?
Yeah. We met in college, but we were high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that technically falls in the same
I
category.
think it does. We were 16 and 17. We were babies.
I'm sorry, we were geniuses and we started college
Yeah, that's
early.
just a humble brag that we're no. Miles only did 2 years of high school. So.
Yeah.
That's why he's,
I know. He
little
was
slow.
basically a 40-year-old man when I met him. So
Yeah.
No, I was cool.
You were.
Now he's a 60-year-old
I
man.
feel like you've been the same since you were
You can
16.
be you can be 40 and be
No,
cool.
you were. You have an old soul.
Old soul?
Yeah.
Old soul, like music?
No.
Soul music?
No.
No.
You still got a great head of hair and
Yeah.
no grays
Yeah.
coming in
Yeah.
like me.
It's just the only thing is it kind of like starts to thin out, up here.
Welcome to
Yeah.
my world.
Yeah. I was thinking about getting that operation where they take the hair in the back of your head and they
Oh,
just
boy.
replace it.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no. It's okay.
No,
No,
no.
you don't need that.
You're not that desperate yet.
Yeah. So after we met, we went to college together.
Yeah.
That's where kind of Chase and Sarah got to know each other more.
Yep.
You went to UCF.
I
before
did
that.
for a year, yeah, and then I saw the light and transferred to
Saw the
FSU,
light.
and it was the best decision
Throwing
of my
shade
life.
on UCF.
UCF sucks.
No, it wasn't the school, but
Oh.
I wouldn't have met everybody
It was
if
just
I didn't
the
go to
people
FSU. Yeah,
and
exactly.
academics and
Yeah,
everything about
and the
no, I'm
football
kidding.
team. Like, come on.
They're pretty good now. I don't know
Yeah.
if you can say that. Back
Well,
then,
at the
not so
time,
much.
I got to experience going to the college that won the national championship, so
That's
that's
true.
pretty rare.
You
FSU.
did not miss out
Yeah.
on that. That
We got lucky.
2014, right? 13, 14
15,
season?
no.
Yeah. It was a 2013 to 14 season.
Yeah.
Was no
13 to 14.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was our
Was
first year
it?
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Great stuff.
Mhm.
Jameis Winston's first year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the best times. Yeah.
All downhill from there.
I'm so happy. I
Both
went
in
to
our
FSU.
lives and Jameson's.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
So you went to Florida State. You graduated. And
Yeah.
You knew that you wanted to do what?
So I knew I wanted to do something in the medical field, but I value work-life balance a lot. So I looked into professional degrees and I chose optometry.
Oh.
So after 4 years of college, then I did 4 years of optometry school. And then I did 1 year of residency, and now here I am. I
So
just
those are the
started my
people
first
that
job.
when you're walking through Costco and you see
Yeah.
the little eye exam, little center,
Yeah.
the person with the white lab coat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Just
right.
like on Superstore, I just saw the optometrist on Superstore.
Yeah, we're watching. Well, at least I'm watching
Yeah.
season 5, I think, of Superstore, and that's when what's his name, the undocumented guy.
Oh yes.
He gets caught, and then he comes back and works for
Yeah.
the optometrist.
I've never seen the show, but Miles points out the optometrist.
Sarah
whenever
thought
it's
it was
on.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's not all we do.
Oh, okay.
But I am in a private practice, so I have never worked in a retail setting, but that's a good avenue for those.
So you're
who
not a
want to.
lens pusher.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that's what it is. I think there's a general public misconception about what we do. So I always tell people if I was just doing glasses, I would have only had to go to school for a year.
Okay.
So I
Right.
trained for 5 years. So like glasses aren't that hard.
Because it's a
They're
lot
not
of
that
what an
complex.
optician does, right?
Yeah, I mean, opticians are they know a lot that I don't know about glasses, but we like monitor for eye disease. I work with kids, so I do a lot of preventative stuff, but there's just a lot more to our job than the public realizes. So get your dilated eye exams every year.
Yeah.
It's important. So I always tell people that it's the only place that we can see blood vessels in the body without having surgery or using a scope. So we just hold up a lens and we can see any disease that affects the blood vessels. So yeah, we can
Gnarly.
screen for all kinds of diseases.
So you can see like hypertension, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Diabetes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of there's like some new age stuff coming out saying like that the eyes are actually a part of the brain. Do you subscribe to that?
I mean, the optic nerve connects the eyes to the brain, so 100% it is.
I don't know if like new age science was the right label.
I
to
think
slap
that
on
that's like just
New age.
actual science.
But I think it's
But,
just
yeah. You're
We'll
right.
have to, we'll
yeah.
have to fact check that with
Yeah.
Michael. But
No,
like,
so you can see neurological conditions in the brain too. Like MS
Yeah.
can affect anything that can affect the brain, can affect the optic nerve. Like we can
Okay.
catch brain tumors, things like it's just crazy. Like anything that affects the body can affect the eye.
Is
So
there-
and people don't realize that. So
is there a lot of, or are there a lot of conditions that are caught that you may not otherwise catch with your going to your normal doctor?
I would say diabetes is a big one. We see hemorrhages in the back of the eye, or hypertension. We can see like thinning of the blood vessels, narrowing of the blood vessels, and then we just recommend that they get tested for that. But a lot of times they already know about it. But yeah.
Have you discovered any patient with a tumor?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I've seen patients who have had tumors and effects from them, but I haven't discovered them myself.
Right.
So yeah.
What about
luckily? But
ulcers? They don't turn into tumors, do they?
what ulcers?
Ulcers on the eye?
No, that's different. That's like an infection on the front surface of the eye.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
an infection causes the ulcer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot. So we're not just doing glasses. That's the main takeaway.
So 5 years. That seems
Yeah.
like a hell of a long time.
yeah.
So
yeah.
what were the
I-
first? Because the first 4 were school.
Yeah.
Optometry
so-
school. So
yeah,
what was
so
that like?
The first year was more basic sciences, biochemistry, anatomy, things like that. And then we kind of learned about eye stuff the second year. Third year, we started clinical practice. And then fourth year was only clinical practice.
So you're like
It's kind of a
accompanying
progression.
people and they're doing their routines of
So
exams and stuff like
well,
that.
no,
or-
you start seeing your own patients third year, but
okay.
with heavy supervision. So you report to an attending or a preceptor. It's the same with all of medicine. And then slowly you get more independence and they might check less things, but at first they're rechecking everything you do. So the exams are literally 3 hours long.
Do your,
which people do not
did your
like.
patients know that you were still like
Yeah.
doctor in training?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, it is kind of a myth, I would say, or a common misconception that people if you really want good care, you should go to a school, because not only is that student doctor who is in all of those classes right now looking at you, but then the, attending doctor is also looking at you and scrutinizing every part of you. So honestly, it's really good quality care, better than if you just went to like
Maybe
a private practice or
people
hospital.
you might have a different opinion if you're getting surgery or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, well,
Or
You're going to cut me open.
the thing
something
is,
non-invasive.
Yeah, I
so the
don't want
thing
a
is,
student.
like, residency surgeons train at hospitals, and it's kind of known if you have the most complex thing, you want to be seen at a hospital, because of all those eyes looking at your case, right?
Oh,
So
because it's not just one person.
teaching institutions give really good quality of care.
What
in
about
general.
haircuts? Like the Avita?
I
Is that how you
have
say it?
no
Avita
idea.
Institute?
Avita?
I
Veda?
cut my own hair, so I don't know.
Well,
They're probably better than me.
Someone once told me they went there to get their haircut, and I was
It's
like, why
probably-
would you do that?
I don't know.
I guess it kind of makes sense because they're learning the
I
stuff
know that
right
you
there,
have to pay
right?
extra for like a stylist who's been there longer, and I never do. So,
Oh,
but I have had a
experience.
lot of people mess up, so I don't know.
Yeah,
yeah,
But I don't think you can compare that.
that's weird. So your fourth year was the entire year was
Yeah.
basically just seeing patients
Yeah,
on your
and
own.
and you were with me. We moved every 3 months as a new rotation. So we moved to Atlanta, we moved to Charlotte.
Because we started out in Fort Lauderdale, so you did a
yeah.
couple of rotations there and in
Yep.
Miami,
Yep, exactly.
and then
yeah.
we moved to Charlotte for
Yeah,
3
so
months.
you're doing care with different patient demographics every 3 months. So I worked at the VA and saw only elderly men who have a whole host of their own problems, then different from kids, and it's just you need all of that different variety to get to learn the best. So, but then I did my residency solely in pediatrics, so just a year
Right.
straight of pediatrics.
And that's when we went. So after Charlotte, you did the rotation in Atlanta, and then you graduated,
Yeah.
passed your board exams, got certified, and then we moved to Boston where you did your residency.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's where you're the doctor, and these are your patients.
You're still reporting to people, but now they call you doctor.
Right.
So that's
How
nice.
was that? Fancy?
It is weird because I was 25 when I graduated, and that just feels weird. And it still feels weird, even though I have my own patients now. But yeah. But
Was it scary? Because before it was like, it wasn't your patient.
I like the fact in residency I could be like, let me go talk to the attending. I can't do that anymore. So I have to
Yeah.
figure out everything on
So
my
now
own.
it's even more scary.
Yeah, it is more scary now. Yeah.
But I mean,
But that's why I like working at a group practice, because I ask people questions a lot.
Yeah.
So
Out of all the cities that you lived in, which one was your favorite?
I would say Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Boston. It's just charming. Like it's so
Old.
much history that you can't get anywhere else. It's a small city, but it feels like an actual city. And it's not overwhelming to like ride the subway. It's really safe.
Yeah.
Not
I wouldn't
like
say
New
it's
York.
a small city.
I mean,
I think it's
relative
small.
to other cities that are that densely populated, like
Yeah.
New York or San Francisco,
LA, yeah.
it feels
Yeah.
small. It's not necessarily small.
It's also
but
very dense. So I think the actual city,
Yeah.
Whatever area is kind of smaller
yeah.
relative to, like, there's a lot of people packed into that place. I
Right.
think it's one of the most dense cities in the U.S.
Really?
But
It is. It actually isn't that big when you look at
Right.
it compared to New York or something like that.
yeah, so there may be areas of it that are just as dense as
Yeah.
parts of L.A. and New York. But if you can put it on a map, New York might be like this versus Boston, just kind of a smaller piece of that. So you
Okay.
just have, and even like when you look at LA, because LA has so many suburbs and it's
Yeah.
just ginormous
Yeah, it's pretty big.
compared to Boston. Like it might take you a long time to get from one area to, not
We could
that
walk
far from
most of
another.
it, though, honestly.
Yeah, you could walk a lot of
Yeah.
it. And the T, that's what they call it, the train
Yeah.
there, was really good as well.
Mhm.
But once you get outside of the city, then it's
Yeah.
kind of just
and
like,
the architecture is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like me and Miles would go on walks during like the quarantine
Yeah.
period, and
Yeah.
it was just so amazing
Very,
what we could see
like,
every day.
charming streets.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so expensive. I can never live there.
yeah, that's really the downside.
And we're not
Yep.
city people, but if we were,
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I visited once and I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I would definitely go back
Mhm.
to visit. There's so much to do.
yeah,
A lot
definitely.
Yeah.
of good food, good beer, good people.
For
Yeah.
sure. That's why it
Sports.
was such a bummer, because COVID hit in maybe like a little further past
Yeah.
the halfway mark that we were there. So for maybe a third of the time we were there, it was like you couldn't do anything except go on a walk, but we
Yeah.
didn't really get that extra time to experience some of the other things we
Right.
wanted to in Boston. It was a bummer, but otherwise, yeah, it's such a vibrant city.
Yeah, and
There's a lot of
it's young
diversity too.
city. It's like, and the education, it's just everybody
Young
is
as in
learning
like
and-
young people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Young professional.
getcha.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just
Yeah,
love
that's
it.
true. Because
Yeah.
there's so many colleges there.
Yeah,
and
and
universities
hospitals and-
and
yeah.
hospitals, and so you always have every year people coming and going. I think that's one of the reasons why you have a lot of diversity, because like whenever you talk about like a Boston accent, if you go to Boston and
You
live
don't
in
hear
Boston,
it.
you don't really
It's
hear
really
that.
rare.
If you go
Yeah.
outside the city, you kind of hear it more in the suburbs and stuff, because those are the people who have
Yeah.
lived there for a long time.
Right.
But if you're in the city, you very rarely
You're
hearing
like a
it.
transplant almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A student. That's like when you were I think you talked before about how rent has been slashed tremendously because a large population of that city is students, and
Yeah.
when everything
Yeah.
went online, nobody moved to Boston to do
Right.
their schoolwork.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, the
Yeah.
apartment we were living, like I would look back at it every once in a while just because I was curious, because I had heard in New York and in places in California people were moving away or doing whatever, and so I was curious, and yeah, it was significantly cheaper. It basically made it a bit more livable. Like
Yeah.
still more expensive than here in Denver, which is pretty expensive too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like you could afford a 1-bedroom.
Yeah. I don't think I could have lived in a studio longer than a year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we
But
lived in
it's
a
like
studio
we
there.
chose laundry and central air over space. So
Yeah, it's
you
like-
have to choose one or the other if you're living,
Essentially
If
an
you're not rich.
extended stay hotel.
Yeah.
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 Like a little kitchen.
What's funny is we
Barely
stayed in
a
an
kitchen,
extended
yeah.
stay hotel. So when
And it was bigger than our
right,
studio.
it was, yeah. So
Yeah.
when we were leaving, when we
I was
were
like, wow,
when we
this
were
is
leaving
nice.
to move here, we had like 2 weeks, I think, where we
Yeah.
had to stay there so she could finish her residency, and it was cheaper because of COVID. Normally the hotel prices are, I mean, you would know that because you stayed there,
Yeah.
are incredible. But
Pretty high.
yeah, but we actually stayed in a hotel cheaper than staying in our own apartment.
So crazy.
It was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was
Yeah.
nicer because it was a little bit bigger.
We actually had a kitchen space.
We had,
Yeah.
nice
Yeah.
kitchen.
But then we got here and we were like, wow, 2 bedrooms.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's quite a big move from
Yeah.
Boston. What made you want to move out west?
When we visited you guys the
Yeah.
first time. Yeah. I mean, it just fits me and Miles' lifestyle so perfect. And I just feel like there's endless outdoors things to do.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
we're
I
never
think
going to
ever since you moved here, you've done more like hiking,
Yeah.
14ers, stuff like that than I have.
Yeah.
And I've lived here for like 6 years.
Yeah.
I was
It's like you
literally
were trying to
thinking,
get it all done in
well,
like
I
one.
was thinking before I moved here, I was already excited about things to do here. So I like have wanted to do things
Yeah.
for so long.
But yeah, and to that point, because it gets cold here and you can't do a lot of hiking that you
That's
can in the
true.
summer.
Yeah.
Sarah wanted to get a lot of
Yeah.
that because it's not like we're gonna run out. It's not like we'll be like, okay, we have to get this done this year.
Yeah.
It's like we could still be doing that much stuff. I feel like in 5 years, and we'll still have things to do.
It's just so cool that you can go somewhere new every weekend and see something completely different. It's just really rare. Like in Florida, that was impossible to do. Like
Yeah.
it was just, you had the beach, but that kind of gets old. And what else is there to do? Like
There's some
outdoors.
swamps. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have an
yeah.
airboat.
Buggies.
But you also like the springs,
Swamp
you have
buggies.
to drive so far. It's like everything is so close here.
Yeah.
I
You can
just
go
love
to
it.
Disney.
Yay.
You can hike at Disney.
Disney is my worst
Yeah.
nightmare.
A lot of hiking, a lot of walking
Yeah.
at Disney.
There's so many spiders
Just
and
kidding, it's
bugs
not my worst
and
nightmare,
like
but-
mosquitoes.
It's
Are there
one of them.
mosquitoes here?
No.
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 Yeah, everything about Colorado
Not
is
really.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We,
So
we
far.
went on a road trip for winter and we came back and like the car was really dirty, but there was like no bugs on the
Yeah.
front.
Yeah, not a lot of bugs.
Your skin still
yeah.
gets itchy though because of the dryness. My skin has been really itchy.
Yeah, it's just like the more subtropical you get, or tropical in general, the humidity increases and it supports the
right.
life
Yeah.
or ecosystem of like small insects like
Yeah.
that. You still have bugs out here, a lot of spiders.
Yeah.
because it's just kind of more of a
And you have
Tarantulas.
temperate, like desert climate almost.
Oh yeah,
Right.
you had a black widow in your garage the other
Oh my
day.
Yeah.
gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
But they have the tarantula migration here, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but apparently down south near like the sand dunes area, because not a lot of people know there's actual sand dunes, like desert sand dunes in like southern Colorado, and I guess there's like an annual tarantula. They're actually not that big. I've heard they're like, you think of a tarantula, you think of like something like that big, or
Yeah.
But they're
I think
harmless.
they're a little
People have
smaller.
them as pets.
Yeah.
Are
right?
they harmless? I thought
But
they're
people
actually
have them as
poisonous.
pets. I feel like they probably.
You should
I don't
Google
know,
that
to be
because I
honest.
actually want to know.
Yeah, I'm.
I
kinda
think they
curious.
might be poisonous, but I don't think they're life threatening, and I don't think they're aggressive. So if you did encounter one in the
Yeah.
wilds of Colorado,
Right.
I don't think it's a danger necessarily. But Miles is finding out right now if tarantulas. I think there probably is a few species that might be more
For sure, yeah.
dangerous than the other, but it seems like they migrate across Colorado without any problems each year. So
So they just like walk like across. What?
yeah,
what-
if you Google
why?
Colorado tarantula migration, you'll find like
just
they move in
for
herds.
the weather,
They
or
move in herds.
that's so interesting.
Probably a seasonal thing. I don't know. Google would know.
Yeah, so
Yeah, tell us
so
about-
they do have poison,
Yeah.
and if they bite you, then it can be unpleasant, but it wouldn't kill you.
Yeah.
And I think you were right; they don't often bite for whatever reason.
Why do they migrate? Can you look
So
that
the
up?
Colorado tarantula migration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can figure that one out.
Yeah. Google's a hell of a Google. I learned this a few years ago, and I've been here for 6 years. And apparently, it happens in late August and into mid-September.
Hmm.
And it's pretty fascinating.
So it seems like it's for mating reasons.
Oh, interesting.
So you got spiders on the crawl for spider pussy.
Mhm. Yeah,
Just
exactly. Yeah.
Hunting down.
So
mates.
it's
I never would have guessed that's why they migrated. That's crazy.
uh,
Like, how does that help them mate? I don't.
okay.
understand.
So what this article says, which is from the denverpost.com, so they claim that the term migration is misleading because it's not actually migration. It's just that there's a lot of them that come out and something. I think they're mating.
Maybe they just want to mate in public. I don't know.
Well, I mean, okay. I was gonna say, like, if you think dating's hard, being a tarantula in Colorado, you have to trek across the desert to get
Yeah.
laid.
That's commitment.
It's pretty COVID friendly.
That's romantic,
too. So
actually.
they may be onto something.
Ooh, so apparently they on their legs they have spines, and so if you go to grab them, they can flick their spines up and cut you, which is really weird. Like a porcupine, right?
Kinda. Except
Weird.
I think porcupines, they can like
They shoot them out, right?
almost. Maybe that's a myth too, because that sounds kind of wacky.
Yeah, it does.
It's just.
It sounds.
But I'm gonna believe
reasonable,
it,
though.
'cause I
Like,
said it.
It sounds like it could happen.
I think they're easily removable. I don't know if they actually shoot them out, because then it's made to be like a deterrent, right? So they can escape predators.
Right. So
Yeah.
if you try to bite it, get stuck with them.
That's a
Interesting.
superpower that I could get into, having spikes shoot out of me.
Yeah.
Hit
Same.
my opponent, my predator.
Yeah. That would be fun.
So, what's today? Today's the 9th of January. Happy New Year,
Yeah.
everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Happy
today's
New
the
Year.
ninth.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
COVID still quite
Rampant.
quite a big thing here. But they're rolling out vaccines. You guys got COVID.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We got it in November, like the week before
Yeah.
Thanksgiving,
I
right?
unfortunately gave it to
How did that
Miles, who never
happen?
leaves the house.
Yeah. So how did you get COVID?
I got it at work. So I got it from a coworker, and I didn't know I was exposed until I had symptoms. So I think it was a Friday, and I texted Miles that day that my throat hurt, but it just felt like any other like postnasal drip from the dryness or anything.
So that was the very first.
It was
symptom
so
you-
mild. Yeah, it was so
Yeah.
mild. I had
It's
some
super
tea-
common for
yeah.
Sarah to have that too.
I have
so
sore
that's why
throats
we
all the
weren't
time
worried.
just from dryness and postnasal drip. But I remember texting you about it, and I was like, should I be worried? And you're like, no, don't worry about it. And then as soon as I get off work, like at 5 o'clock on the dot, my boss calls me and she's like, I have to tell you that you were exposed. Do you have symptoms? And I was like, I don't think so, but my throat kind of hurts. It's probably nothing.
Yeah. As Sarah was walking in the door to our apartment,
Yeah.
Oh.
she's on the phone.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there like, what's going on?
Yeah, you're like slowly putting a mask on.
Right.
Backing up.
Yeah.
It's exactly what
So,
happened.
And the rest of the night, I just had a sore throat, and it did get a little worse throughout the night. But then the weirdest thing happened. My thighs started hurting. Like, it was like nothing I've ever felt before. Like, I work out, I get sore, but it was like horrible thigh pain.
Was it like a muscle pain or?
Yeah, it was a muscle pain.
Okay.
But it just felt like so intense. Like someone was like squeezing my thighs or something. Wow. And that lasted. I could not sleep because of it. It was so bad. Even though I took Tylenol, and I was like, what is happening? Like, this is so weird. So of course I was Googling, because that's what you do when you can't sleep from something medical.
WebMD it and
Yeah,
convince yourself you're dying.
I like got into this whole Reddit thread, and I discovered that it is a symptom of COVID to have leg pain. So I was like, oh no. And so then the next day I just felt sick and had a headache all day and a fever.
Yeah. So that night, we still thought, we were like, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean.
Right.
So she could technically not have it.
Yeah.
She could just have another illness.
It was very mild.
It could just
I would
be,
say.
Something
leg
random.
pain
That's what you were
gone.
thinking at that time.
That's what we were thinking at the time.
Well,
So,
and the thigh pain was gone the next day. I just woke up with a headache, a really bad headache all day.
Right.
So that was kind of all of the symptoms that I had at that point.
and then we
So-
thought, okay, even if she did have it, I could still not have it. So I slept on the ground next to our bed in the same room. Because
you got balls. I
know.
would have been like
Yeah.
opposite end of the apartment.
I know.
It was so
I-
cute, though. You talked to me till I fell
But at
asleep.
first I was just like, you probably don't have it.
Right,
I don't know.
yeah.
It was just a weird situation. Then the next day she felt sick, so I was like, okay, I will be sleeping on the couch for the next week.
And I wore a mask.
Yeah, you stay in the room, keep your mask on. I'll keep my mask on. I don't know why I needed to do that, but I'll keep it on. And then I just gave her all the snacks and stuff she needed, and then
COVID snacks.
Yeah.
What does COVID snacks entail?
Cheetos. I will
Popcorn.
tell you,
The
we'll get
miracle
to it.
cure to
but-
COVID, folks. You heard it
Yeah,
here.
once you lose your taste and smell, Cheetos is the only thing that I could eat, honestly.
Yeah.
Like
Really?
the
'Cause you
texture,
still-
the texture is so good. Like the puffs, it melts in your mouth, and like the Cheetos are so good when you can't taste. I swear I just ate them for 2 weeks.
Miles,
Yeah.
can you concur to that
It's
statement?
You didn't lose yours
know.
like me.
I lost my smell completely,
little bit,
but
yeah.
my taste, I could pretty much still taste things, just not as well.
Well,
So
what were your first symptoms?
so I didn't even get symptoms till Monday. So like
So I got tested Saturday.
which was super weird.
Why?
Right? Because so Sarah, you called. I think your
Yeah,
boss
Dispatch
recommended
Health.
some Dispatch Health. Okay.
Shout
So
out.
that
They're
is a
amazing.
service that comes to you to
So they
test
come
you?
to you for anything.
Wow,
actually,
that's super
it's
fancy and
it's not
privileged.
only COVID, and also it doesn't cost any more than a regular visit. Isn't
Really?
that crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, rich.
Is it
people.
covered by your health
we
insurance?
are in the future.
Yeah, it
What?
was.
Yeah, it is. I don't think
I don't think we even got a claim for it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I don't think.
And they
even
said
sent us a
normally
bill.
they do all kinds of visits, not just COVID testing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
but they were great.
Yeah, so Sarah called them and they were like, okay, we'll come sometime between like 5 and 6 or
Something
something.
like
They
that.
came later than
They
that, I
did,
think.
yeah.
It was pretty late. So to get in our apartment, you have to have someone come open the door for you. There's not like a remote access unless you come in the very front door. So, and they needed a park. So they parked in our parking garage. And then I put like a bunch of clothes on me, my mask. I put gloves on because I was like, if I don't want to get anyone else in my apartment sick if I have it. So I like put all that stuff on, and I just tried not to touch anything. Like tried to hold my breath the whole time.
Ew.
So I go up in the elevator, and like these people are putting on like hazmat stuff. It was so weird, and so I was like, okay, you guys go to the 3rd floor, and I'll meet you down there because I don't want to like go in the elevator with you guys. And they're like, okay, cool. So they go down. And I meet them down there, and they end up going the wrong way. I had to go like run after them and get them, but we're coming back, and this guy passes us, and some guy who lives there, I guess, and the look on his face was just like, "What the hell is going
shit.
on here?"
Yeah. Lock this shit down.
Yeah, and I was like, oh God, he saw me. So then we finally got to the apartment, and then you can kind of tell how that went.
They just tested me. It wasn't bad. Apparently, the big nose swabs that everyone freaked out about, they don't use them anymore as much. So it was tiny and it wasn't bad. Yeah. It was a good experience though, them coming. It was so easy.
We didn't have to wait any lines or anything.
Yeah. And then we found out I had it. Well, you became symptomatic like 2 days later.
Yeah, because the test didn't come back for like 4 or 5
because that was the
days.
time where everybody had it.
Yeah.
So there was a lot
of... also because it was right before Thanksgiving. Yeah. So not only did a lot more people have it, but a lot more people were getting tested so they could travel, you know? So it's kind of delayed. So then Monday I woke up and I was going to work that day and had a bit of a cough in the morning. But I have pretty bad heartburn, so I just kind of thought maybe it's that. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. And then it got worse, and then I was basically having to cough like every 10 to 30 seconds. Yeah. And it wasn't a real bad
had a cough like that.
Yeah, our symptoms were pretty different
Yeah.
In what we had. Like similar COVID symptoms, but kind of in different ways. And by that night, so I had a cough all day. I finished working, and then we watched a movie that night, and I figured, okay, I have it. I mean,
I was like,
so at that point, Sarah came out of her hole.
Yeah, it was so nice.
You guys took off your masks.
Yeah, I was like, okay, we can cuddle now.
COVID buddies.
Yeah, so we watched a movie.
Meanwhile, I'm Googling, like, can Yoshi get COVID? Which cats can get COVID. Yeah. Luckily, Yoshi didn't, and Yoshi is immunocompromised.
Did you make him wear a mask, little kitty mask?
No, I couldn't help cuddling him. I felt so selfish. But,
wow.
Like, I needed him as comfort.
For this anxiety I'm having. I'd die.
There were a couple days when he was kind of more mellow, and we were like, oh my God, he's going to die.
Like,
sneeze,
honestly,
like,
yeah.
Sneeze?
We both
had, he normally sneezes.
Yeah. Overall, it was mild for both of us. Like, we never had breathing issues or anything, but I think the anxiety of not knowing what's going to happen because
That's
it can be really bad. It was
because you're like, what if I'm that unlucky person,
right?
But we live right next to a hospital, so I wasn't really that worried.
True.
It's like we could have walked there.
Yeah, that's true.
Like in some cases they can't really do a whole lot for you.
True.
Well, and I remember that day that you or Janie, I think, picked up some groceries for us, and we drove to your house to pick them up, and we were so tired.
That was a horrible
just from
idea.
that driving.
Yeah, horrible idea because
we were so fatigued. Like we barely like.
I don't know what it was, but getting in the car and having to focus and drive. Yeah, I felt horrible.
So I'm sure your head was like all like heavy and muddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like everything that you do normally that's like a medial task seems much more exhausting probably.
Yeah, and then we get home and we're just like, we need a rest. Like it was just like the fatigue wasn't.
It was like even I'm not going outside again.
Yeah, our fevers I think only lasted like 3 to 4 days maybe, and then but the fatigue lasted a long time.
How high did your fever get?
I don't know. I think yours got maybe like 103.
Maybe
something.
Not much more than that.
Yeah,
we took Tylenol a lot.
Yeah, so Tylenol helps a lot.
Yeah, so we would basically take it
every
and then
4 hours.
We would kind of take it when we could again, which would be when the fever's starting to get back up, and then it would go down again. So I think at the most it was like 102 point something.
Yeah.
That we happened to check.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it actually was.
Was there anything else you were taking besides Tylenol that helped?
I started taking like all the vitamins because research has shown that vitamin D and vitamin C help and zinc. So I took all of
Magnesium too, right?
Yeah,
didn't we take that?
I did. Yeah.
Were you guys taking that before?
No, I took a multivitamin before, but I started taking all of that as soon as I found out.
Like a multivitamin only has like 200 IUs of vitamin D or something like that.
Yeah, it's not sufficient.
Maybe not even that much.
It's probably like pointless to take one, but I just take it.
Yeah, we took a bunch of different vitamins that was it I think a doctor on demand or something, they recommended you take it. Someone recommended you take some vitamins.
I knew that from work and stuff, but and I just kept telling myself like, you're not sick. Mine wasn't that bad. I feel like yours might have been a little worse. I don't know.
I mean, mine was just to the point where like I couldn't do anything. Like I was just.
When I say not that bad, it's relative to how bad COVID is.
Of course, Yeah.
So
we had a very mild case of it, I would say.
Exactly. And it was still bad, but it's relatively.
Yeah. If you ever had a bad flu where you just have to lay in bed all day, that's basically what it is. What it was for us.
The thing that was the most distressing, I didn't cry at all until I lost my taste and smell, because it didn't sound like a bad idea, or it didn't sound like not a bad idea. It didn't sound not bad, but until it happens, and then you can't taste or smell anything, and I couldn't eat anything, which I think prolonged my sickness because I couldn't eat.
So you weren't getting nutrition.
Yeah, exactly. So literally the only thing I ate was Cheetos. I'm not exaggerating.
At what point into this illness did you lose your senses on the tail
I think it was
end
day
of
5 for me, and it lasted a week.
About day 5 for me.
It lasted a week for me, and I got it back the day before Thanksgiving, and it was the best
That was crazy.
Yeah.
It was like a miracle because Sarah loves food.
Yeah,
like she just loves the taste of food and everything like that.
Yeah, it was really because the coworker that I got it from still doesn't have hers, and it's 2 months later.
Oh my God.
And I knew that could happen. I had heard of that, and it's it's really bad.
How depressing, right?
I think that I would too. Yeah. And
I think a lot of people have had that similar.
And it's
that's
common
not
for
rare.
it to last that long. So I think not knowing when you're going to get it back, like that's really distressing.
Not knowing if you'll get it back.
Yeah.
Could be permanently damaged.
But relatively, I know that's like the least of, people are really suffering from COVID. So I tried to keep that in mind. But it was like, it was
dying
still.
or losing my sense of smell for an
but
undetermined amount of time.
Yeah, it just didn't, I didn't even think it sounded like that big of a deal when I heard that was a symptom, but it really affected me.
Yeah. The other thing was because when I started getting a cough, I was kind of like, this isn't good because that's going to make my chest start hurting, my lungs start hurting when you're constantly coughing all the time, like when you have a cold or something. And it was so weird. It went away on the first day. Like we finished watching that movie I brought up earlier, and my cough was gone. And I was like, shit, maybe I don't have it, but now I do because I just was with Sarah this whole time. And we went and laid in bed, and within an hour I had a fever and really, really bad chills and just felt horrible. It was really weird.
Really, like your skin, remember?
Yeah, it had I didn't have a rash or anything on my body, but my skin was
sensitive.
Incredibly sensitive.
Like he could feel his shirt on him bothered him. Yeah.
Which I think sometimes get that when I get the flu.
Yeah.
I just oversensitive to everything.
Right.
I'm super cold, then I'm hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's how I was after recently.
Yeah, and then I never had a cough again. Yeah. Besides the occasional, just whatever I had to cough, and you had a cough sometimes, but it was pretty rare.
Yeah.
But we never had breathing issues, which was the huge thing that we were worried about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and now I feel like we're back to normal. So,
but you guys continue to take supplements?
No, we should, but no.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And we've been trying to get into a PCP just to get checked out, and it's so hard. Like in Denver, they're like, our next appointment's not available till July.
I think it really depends on where you go because I thought the same thing because my wife also had that similar experience where it was 2 months out till you get till you can see a doctor. But I cold called because I haven't seen a physician in a couple of years because my work, changed providers, I guess. And so I just randomly picked a guy. By the way, his last name is Dickman, which I was like, yes, bonus points. Nice. And they said I could be seen the next day.
Really?
That's
we
a
have
little
an opening. We have an opening tomorrow.
Maybe something happened where they had an opening.
Yeah. Well, it was also New Year's Eve.
Oh, okay.
So maybe not a lot of people are going to the doctor on that day.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is they don't want to take on a new patient unless they know they can. Because if it's just one doctor at that practice, they can only see their schedule can only be so heavy. But there was a couple of Sarah wanted a female doctor.
Yeah, ideally, but
ideally, yeah. So we just called the ones that are within 5 to 10 miles of our place that are PCPs for our insurance, and one of them never called me back, and then the other one said that they don't have an opening until November.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, November?
Yeah.
Jesus.
We'll figure it out. I'm sure we can just...
Yeah. So, we'll keep calling. There's some male doctors we'll call.
COVID,
5 different places.
Yeah, COVID can cause long-term things, even in young people
so you want to get that
who had a
checked
mild...
out.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think a lot of specialists have some openings for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like we had made a appointment for a different type of doctor, and
Yeah.
it was like next week.
Yeah.
I feel like in general, people are kind of trying to avoid those places if they can. So I can imagine there would be more openings for specialists unless you
Yeah.
really are aware of something, you need it.
Right.
But yeah, I got seen like the next day.
That's crazy.
And like, he's a nice guy. I don't know if I'll keep him though. Like,
Yeah.
there's a couple of signs that
You're like,
maybe
oh,
this is
this is
not
why
the
you had an
best
opening.
doctor though. Like,
Did
I
he
got
touch you
to a place-
inappropriately?
I
curious.
wish. No, I thought it was paying for this. Like, at least need to get a little something, something. No, but I get to the place and I'm waiting to be checked in. And first sign that this may not be a great doctor is there was a vending machine in the waiting room. So while I'm waiting to be checked out for my physical, I'm sitting next to Diet Coke and Twinkies. And I'm like, this is
Really?
like
Right.
really things aren't doing so hot that you need to supplement your income with vending machine
Yeah,
money?
that's
Like,
Wow.
interesting.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the
He
second
wants to
thing
keep his
is,
patients.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he's trying to like give
So
him diabetes.
We have a couple of openings because a couple of our patients died from diabetes
gosh.
recently. No, but the second sign that maybe this isn't the right doctor for me is I get in, he comes in, and the guy's a little overweight, which I don't know. I'm a little judgy when the
Yeah.
guy giving me health advice
Yeah, that's fair.
can't really follow the same advice himself.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all human. I recognize that. And
Yeah.
for the sake of comedy, I'll say that. But, like, you know, you got to practice what you preach, right?
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Like,
Otherwise,
this
you can't
guy's telling me I need to cut back on sugar and get
Really?
my cholesterol down.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Oh, he's eating McDonald's
Yeah.
burger.
he's over there like, well, doc, maybe you too. Why don't we join up and
Yeah.
we'll like be like our check partners? Like, I have to check up on you and see if
Yeah.
you're following the same thing. No, but yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people probably share that kind of
Yeah.
judginess, but I mean, as
It's
long as he's giving you
interesting,
sound
yeah.
advice, I don't,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. Like what I feel like I see going to the doctor different, just because I am like a health professional. But I'm always wondering, like, what can I do to make my patients like me more?
yeah.
But I think honestly, a lot of people just like doctors who explain things to them. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I've realized. Even if they're not the smartest or know all the answers, as long as they explain things and take the time, people like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's what
I
I
mean,
noticed.
anytime I've gone to a dentist and instead of just poking my mouth and then
Yeah.
leaving, and they
Well,
actually
remember-
explain things to me.
Our dentist didn't introduce herself to me, and I was so offended by that.
Yeah, yeah.
She just walked in and started like doing
She
things.
she
and didn't even-
treated us I would say maybe a little sexist, because she was very like, hi, I'm
Oh,
whoever
really?
and
That's
this and
crazy.
that.
Yeah.
She treated
and
me.
Maybe she was in a rush, but
Yeah, she could have been, or she could have just been like, this is the wife. You know,
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
Could be. My dentist was pretty young and hip. Like, he was showing me like he was telling me I need something done with like my mouth, like a surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah. He's like, I was asking, oh, is it hurt? And like, what's the recovery? He's like, oh yeah, let me show you. He pulls out his iPhone and he starts googling photos of the surgery. And he's like, yeah, here's what it'll look like and stuff. And I'm like, I've never had that experience before.
I've definitely done that. Like
Really?
yeah, I will pull up Google and be like, do you want to see what the back of your eye looks like to my kids? And they love it, and to their
Nice.
parents.
But I feel like
I'll
that's
show-
more of
yeah.
a younger
It is,
doctor
yeah.
generation thing
Yeah.
to like be using technology to
That's
help
true.
like bridge the gap between like doctor and patient like relationship
Yeah.
and like understanding like here's
Yeah.
what's going to be done. And before you just had to take their word for it and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
then go home and Google it yourself. But
Yeah.
they're actually kind of showing like here's what they're showing online, blah blah blah. And even like when I went to that doctor, I went to go see they had a resident audiologist because I have
Tinnitus.
it's pronounced. She corrected me. It was.
Oh, really?
I said tinnitus.
Yeah.
She says tinnitus.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Tinnitus.
And,
I definitely don't say that.
She corrected me in a
I
very
asked.
polite way, so I appreciate that doctor. I don't remember her name, but she was also very young. And what
Yeah.
she told me was like, if you want to manage like tinnitus and understand a little bit more about like the modern understanding of it, here's like a social media doctor that you can follow on like
cool.
Facebook and
Yeah.
Instagram. And I was like, this has never happened before.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like doctors,
Times are changing,
like
yeah.
modern doctors nowadays are like taking to social media to
Yeah.
really reach wider
Well,
audiences.
and I think too, part of it, like if they had an older patient, they wouldn't. But it's like when you're a young doctor and there's also a young patient, like you feel like you can kind of talk to them like you're their friend a little bit.
What's the equivalent? I check out this encyclopedia, like for older
These are the
generations.
studies that have been shown.
Well, the other thing is it's probably a good thing, because the alternative could be that she doesn't tell you anything, and then you go on WebMD and find out that you have cancer.
It's true.
Versus her telling you about this reputable doctor on TikTok or Facebook or YouTube or whatever.
Yeah. It's funny though, like I always tell Myles, like all my patients comment on how young I am, like probably 5 times a day at least. And I hear them like talking to the technicians behind my back, like about how I'm so young, but like I'm so mature and all. Like it's like people like just, I don't know, they just like notice that.
How does
That's
that
like the
make you
first
feel?
thing.
It's because you look young.
Yeah, I think I look younger than I am, but I mean, I'm used to it at this point. I think I might be a little upset when it stops happening, but also a little happy. Yeah. But it's almost like I kind of have to prove myself, but I feel like I have good rapport with all my patients, so it's not.
It's like the ageism in the workplace.
Yeah,
not that,
like
not that any of your coworkers are.
Right, but I'll have them ask
ageism,
like,
but,
"How long did you go to school for?" And then I'll be like, "Well, 9 years in total," and they're like, "Oh wow, you look way too young for that."
Yeah.
My elderly patients will straight up be like, "You look 12." Like I'm not exaggerating.
12.
But yeah.
And they
Well,
probably
you look
think
90.
When did they start letting 12-year-olds be doctors? Yeah.
My dentist, I found out after the fact, is 25 years old.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, you're younger than I am, and I'm like, he's gonna be doing these surgeries.
But honestly,
you must have just
like
started.
what people, I will say though, like older doctors, like elderly doctors, they don't know like the new stuff that we're being taught in school, and like
Depending,
there's a balance between experience and being fresh out of school and having that motivation, and
but
if that's in a lot of other jobs too.
And I think each patient is going to prefer something different, but it's just funny how often I get told like it's the first thing that they see when I walk in there.
Yeah.
But if somebody's gonna start cutting me open, I kind of want them to have
that's a different
few
story.
years under the knife or above the knife, whatever you want to say that.
Right.
You know, but I do appreciate like the modern take on things, because science, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, but it is always changing, and some doctors can get a little lazy, and they can not be keeping up with the latest thing, and that could lead to misdiagnosing things or doing things the old way when there's a new way of doing things that's much more effective and can treat it faster.
There's a lot of new biotech devices and medicines that are coming out or have studies coming out all the time. And if you're not someone, if in your field, if you're a gastroenterologist or whatever, looking into that stuff all the time, then you're falling behind. You might be giving your patient an operation or some kind of medicine that's not as good as something else.
Well, I think in general though, like you have continuing education, like that's not really like they know about it. I'm talking more about like really like elderly doctors. A lot of them don't even do surgery anymore if they, they're just
Sure.
But yeah, I think
treating simple cases of things.
With optometry, what kind of continued education is required?
It varies by state. I think Colorado is like 12 hours a year, I want to say.
And what does that consist of?
So it's normally in person. This year it's been allowed to be remote, but it's just like lectures, essentially 12 hours of lectures, and you get to choose. There's some required topics that you have to do, but pretty much you get to pick. And other states have harder.
Are those required topics picked by like the board, or they change?
Yeah, and it's state by state.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they see something that if they recognize something in the industry that is like invaluable and needs to be
probably
spread, that they're like, you've like
I mean, I don't see that. I don't know.
Okay.
Like when something big changes,
like maybe like COVID and the eye.
There's
like
a
how
lot
is
of
that going to change
it's not
things?
required, but I did see a lot of that. Like at the last conference, there was a lot of COVID lectures. But I think they don't require them, so it's kind of up to you. So, because everyone does things differently. Like I'm not going to look at like all this adult disease if I'm not seeing adults. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So COVID came and went. It was so weird because you guys were planning to come over to our place for Thanksgiving, and of course I was like, and it was like I guess CDC amount of days required or like preferred.
Barely, yeah.
It like was like the
the
day
next day.
before
For me,
Thanksgiving,
yeah, I think so,
and
yeah.
they were like, and you guys were like, like what do you guys think? Should we come over? And we are like,
Probably not.
maybe tack on like 5 days
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
that number, and
Yeah,
we'll see
exactly.
you in the following week.
Yeah,
May
which was
not
probably a good
want to.
idea
Yeah.
because even
I don't think we were contagious, but
Probably.
we
Probably
weren't
not.
even like.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, we were pretty healthy on Thanksgiving. I
but
would
even
say.
on Thanksgiving Day, after cooking and stuff
We were
just for
tired.
ourselves,
Yeah.
we kind of I
Yeah.
started not feeling so good.
Yeah.
So
And it's weird because like for me, like I still have my innocence like perspective of not getting COVID, and so I can see if like I did get COVID, I'd be like, no, I'm ready to get back in the world, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go, let's do this.
Yeah.
when you lose your COVID virginity.
Yeah.
I was just happy I could taste
It's
for
a thing.
Thanksgiving, honestly. But
Yeah.
it was kind of sad that we all couldn't do Thanksgiving together.
Yeah, especially since it was your first Thanksgiving. here in
Yeah, and my
Colorado.
sister
Yeah.
was gonna come too.
Yes. that kinda ruined
But
it.
oh well. It's just funny how the timing worked out, and then like a month later, I was eligible to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
So I only had to make it one more month.
So vaccine,
Yeah,
you got it.
I did get it. Yeah, I got it on New Year's
Show
Eve.
us your shot.
Yeah. We wanna see
A
the
lot of people are
injection site.
actually like week after getting redness. I don't have any, but
Yeah.
yes, that's
Even a
fine.
week after?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
So how does this work?
So
Walk us through it.
I somehow got included in like the first round of people in Colorado because I'm affiliated with a children's hospital.
Okay.
So I technically work for them through their community practice.
Because there may be scenarios where you or your other peers may have to go to the hospital.
No,
Maybe not
really,
you, but
I
some
do
of the
have
MDs,
hospital
right?
privileges there. Yeah.
Right.
So I got included on that, and I could get it right away. I waited a little bit since I just had COVID, and but I got it on New Year's Eve, and it was super easy. I could just sign up online. The children's hospital I found out was like the place that got the most amount of vaccine in Colorado out of all the hospitals. So.
Lucky you guys.
Yeah, so I think it might have been a little bit of luck, but now we're already in phase 1B and every healthcare provider can get it. So, so I got it on New Year's Eve. We had a nice sushi dinner and fell asleep like 11:30.
Well, yeah,
I would
and it
say.
was super easy too because we
Oh,
had just
yeah.
gotten back from our trip and then
Yeah, we drove home from our trip that day,
right.
and you drove me there on like, and I just walked in. I pre-registered online, just walked in, got it. 10 minutes
Where?
later, I was done at the children's hospital.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
they're coming in there, they're storing it there, and
Yep.
then they're
Yep.
administrating.
So they
it.
have like in the conference room, they have a little area set up, and they're
Yep.
doing like 4 at a time. And there was no line. I just walked right in. It was super easy.
Yeah, because you scheduled the time and everything,
Yep.
so it should be
Yeah.
orderly. There shouldn't be any
Exactly.
And how long? It was just like getting
2
your flu
seconds.
shot.
So
Yeah.
I know other places make you wait around for 15 minutes to monitor adverse effects, but they didn't do that for me, which I've heard most other places do. But I think maybe just, I don't know. I don't know why, but I didn't have to wait. So it was super easy.
Meanwhile, I went to go park. I found a parking spot, and then as soon as I parked, she's like, "I'm done."
Yeah.
I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
And
just
I
picked
didn't
her
feel
up.
the shot was painless. I don't mind shots at all, but it was just like a flu shot if you've had that. And then at 2 a.m. on New Year's Eve, I woke up and I felt like I had a fever, and I was like, this is weird. Why do I have a fever? I had forgotten that I got the vaccine. So I checked my temperature and it was like 99, and I was like, okay. But then I couldn't sleep because I just felt nauseous, and I was like, maybe it's the sushi. And then I just couldn't sleep like the rest of the night. And my fever ended up getting to like 102 the next day. I had horrible chills the whole day, didn't eat anything all day, muscle aches. Like I felt like I had COVID again.
Wow.
And I hadn't heard of anyone having that reaction. Like I had a lot of coworkers who had gotten it and just had a sore arm. So I was like trying to research things online, nothing about people who had COVID because I was thinking that it was because I had COVID. And then
It got to the point where she had a high enough fever. I don't remember what it was. I think it was almost 104. It's like 103 something. And
Kind of serious.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I thought,
felt
and she was
horrible.
laying in
Yeah.
bed, just like not responding as well. And I seriously thought, should we go to the ER now?
Yeah, I was
Or
texting
are we gonna
India,
have to go
like,
soon?
India-
Especially
is
since
normal.
this is
New.
cutting edge science.
Right.
And you're like, ah, shit.
And I hadn't heard of this. And I knew that you could get side effects for the second dose. And you
Okay.
can get side effects for the first one, but it's much more common with the second. So I kind of thought that it was because I had COVID and I had already had antibodies. And then the 24 hours later, I was fine. So I felt fatigued the rest of the weekend, but I had no fever. And now
Yeah.
I'm back to normal. My arm's fine.
So for the entire duration of your
The whole
symptoms,
day,
how
yeah.
long?
24 hours.
24
so
hour symptoms.
January 1st, it was the whole day. I was just in
Yeah.
bed.
And
Yeah.
then at the end, was it kind of like that and it went away?
I
or
went
it kinda
to
just
bed and then
tail
I
off?
woke up feeling
Yeah.
way better.
Okay.
So I think overnight it got a lot
So by
better.
the time you went to bed, which was maybe like 9 or 10 o'clock,
yeah,
your fever was just a low. It was just
low
a high
grade.
temperature.
Yeah. And then I woke up feeling just fatigued the rest of the weekend, but pretty
Mm-hmm.
much back to normal.
Yeah. So
but
crazy.
I knew it was working because that's a normal reaction to have for a vaccine. I had never had a reaction like that to a vaccine before, but it makes sense that I had it since I had antibodies already.
And I think we should point out that we're in no way saying that
Yeah.
this was bad.
I
Yeah.
just kept telling myself
people
that
shouldn't
I'm
get it or
immune.
be
I'm
afraid.
extra immune.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go it when it's available and you're in
Yeah.
that category of people that they're letting get it.
Yeah.
You should get it, and I intend to get it.
Right.
I know Miles.
Me too.
did,
And then
nobody
I
around
went
us.
to work on Monday.
Yeah.
I also got mouth sores, which is common when your immune system is kind of down. But I went to work on Monday and all these people had a fever. And I was like, okay, it's not just me. But it ended up being everybody who had COVID,
Oh, really?
which I just thought was interesting that they didn't, like, nowhere online could I find anything about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, after this is published,
So,
now you can.
Now
No.
we know. Yeah. But now I am a little worried for the second dose, just my reaction. I'm definitely still going to get it, but I plan to take the next day off work.
Yeah.
So,
When are you supposed to get the second dose?
January 28th, the weekend your family's here.
So that would be 28 days later.
Yeah. So I got Moderna and you get it 28 days after the booster shot.
Okay.
And then with Pfizer, it's 21 days after.
What's the difference between the shots? Do you know?
In the mechanism, there's a slight difference, but they're both about the same effectivity, like 95%.
And did you say there's
And
one is more concentrated or something than the other?
Moderna has like 100 micrograms of the vaccine and Pfizer has 30, but that doesn't affect like any side effects.
It's
It
just-
shouldn't,
it just
shouldn't
is what
affect
it is, yeah.
anything.
And do you
Yeah.
know the mechanics of how this vaccine works?
Not,
Do you feel
I
comfortable
do,
talking
no,
about
I
it?
don't feel comfortable.
Okay,
talking.
alright.
I know, like I've read it several times, but no, I'm not immunologist. I
We'll
could not
have
explain it.
somebody
Yeah,
else on.
maybe. Yeah, Michael Cutler
Immunologist.
maybe could explain it.
Or
But
the Lucky
basically,
Duck resident
the
doctor.
main thing to know though is it's not a live vaccine, so it's impossible to get COVID from the vaccine. You can't.
Well, there's no
Right.
coronavirus in it.
There's no
Yeah, it's like a
coronavirus in it. It
deactivated
affects. It's an
virus.
RNA vaccine, so it
Okay.
affects your RNA, I think, but it's not a live vaccine, so it's safe for pregnant people theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the worst side effect is probably it not working. Like there's probably not going to be any long term
That's
side
pretty
effects.
well said,
So.
yeah.
Or I think they've said if you're someone who commonly has allergic reactions
Right,
to
of course,
things,
yeah, and allergic reactions.
you just maybe should
That's-
stay away
Have
from
you
it.
seen
Exactly.
the photos of people with filler in their face?
Yeah,
You mentioned that.
that's interesting.
And they're getting very like blotchy
I
and
have,
red and
yeah.
all that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna call out all the superficial
I
people.
know, but I think I've read that it goes away quickly too, though.
Yeah.
So,
Very shortly.
but it's definitely more intense than the flu vaccine. Like the flu, I still get a sore arm for about 24 hours, but this one I like could not lift my arm.
And rightfully so. I mean, the COVID is
yeah.
much more deadly than the flu
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, but I think
I think there's
it's-
some people who also have kind of nasty reactions to the flu vaccine
Yeah,
as well.
100% there is. It's a normal immune response. I just had a really significant one because I had COVID recently, and
Yeah.
most people don't have that.
There was actually a point, stupidly probably, where we actually
I
thought
know.
too, where we
Well,
were
that's
like,
when- yeah.
wait, maybe you do have
I know,
COVID
like,
again.
maybe I got COVID
we
on the
did just
trip.
go on vacation.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Wouldn't that be crazy if you did like get COVID again and then at the same time
Someone
got the shot?
told me,
and
one of the
then-
MDs told me that happened to someone he knew.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
she got COVID symptoms because you're not for regular people, you're not immune after the first dose. I have a feeling I am because of my reaction,
Because you
but
had it.
you're not immune until the second dose. Yeah, so even if you do have a bad reaction, you need to get the second dose, and then it's 10 to 14 days after that you're immune.
So let's call it 48 days. So month and a half. month and a half till you're ready to go from first to immunity.
And the thing is too,
48 days.
What they say.
Yeah,
so it's 95% effective at preventing symptomatic COVID, but they don't know about asymptomatic COVID. So you still need to wear your mask and everything because they think that you might still be able to spread it. Probably not, but like they just don't know. So we still have to wear our masks.
As soon as I get mine, I'm partying hard.
No, that's the opposite of what you should do.
Nope, don't care. All you Florida people, I'm coming down there.
I'm going to Home Depot and I'm not wearing
I know y'all
masks.
are open, so we're gonna have a grand old time.
Well, you can do that now.
I was hoping that you would like split the vaccine up 4 ways. Just like give me a little.
I told her to put like a fake shoulder on where it went into a little bag, and then we could do that. You know.
So, but the thing is interesting is that Colorado, I think, is organized pretty well. But my parents are trying to get it in Florida, and they qualify because they're over 65. And
because Florida's doing it differently than
and it's county
the CDC
by county.
said.
It's county by county, so it could vary definitely. But you couldn't. They told me that you couldn't make appointments online, so you had to show up.
Yep.
And my mom said like there's people with oxygen tanks like all like in line fighting for a spot. And I guess 600 people showed up when they only had 300 doses, and so my parents just went home.
Yeah, I have heard similar things where it's not a great execution plan.
Yeah, and I think it might be easier if you're affiliated with somewhere that has the vaccine like me. Like I think mine might have been a special case where it was pretty easy for me, but I anticipate a lot of issues.
Their excuse is that in the past 7 months they haven't had time to set up some kind of online system for reservations.
Yeah, okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
Because down in Florida you have people in lines, you know, hitting each other with walkers trying to get this thing.
I know. I was like, can I give my vaccine to my mom? Like, I would rather, but.
And also it's interesting on where they're setting up. Like, it makes sense for like hospitals, but they were saying like supermarkets, like King Soopers, Publix, like also will have or getting like freezers to be able to set up to deliver vaccines. But I think McDonald's should be. Like everybody who's eating McDonald's probably should qualify.
I mean, honestly,
for the vaccine.
That's a genius idea,
right? You get like, can I get a number 1, please, with my vaccine also? So
I'll
when
take
you pull
the
up,
Moderna.
it'll give you your Big Mac and fries, and then you just stick your arm out the window.
That should be the thing, like free vaccine for a Big Mac.
It's like a Happy Meal, but for adults.
Or if you get a free Big Mac if you get the vaccine. That would be an awesome promotion, right?
Yeah, it's like, here, we're going to cure COVID, but we're going to give you diabetes, which is also like bad for COVID.
Just as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do the general public.
Yeah, that's where I think like places like Walmart,
I could see Walgreens and CVS too.
Yeah.
And I know I read something on Reddit, so I don't know how true it is, but these people said that they were just hanging around like shopping in Walgreens, and it was the end of the day, and they had extra vaccines, so they just went around the store like offering.
Or when they have people who don't show up for their appointment. Supposedly they already take the vaccine out of the freezer and for whatever reason can't put it back or something.
Yeah, I think it has to be maintained at a certain temperature, and then once it leaves that temperature, I don't think it'll spoil it or something if it doesn't.
Yeah. So
also, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, I am, but not that kind of
vaccine
doctor.
advice from me.
Yeah, I don't know.
So what we're saying is go to Walgreens and just hang out there all day.
Hang out, hope that they have a few laying around.
Just kidding. Don't do that, because if you do that, then Walgreens is gonna stop just giving out vaccines.
Yeah, and they're gonna stop supporting this podcast. By the way, go to Walgreens/vaccine to sign up for yours.
/ at the Lucky Duck.
Yeah. So now that you have the vaccine, you're waiting to get the second dose. Are you excited about doing anything? Like, are you like less worried about going to restaurants?
No,
yeah, I think
I'm not.
I think that you will feel comfortable seeing your parents.
That's
right?
the only thing. Yeah, I do feel comfortable seeing my parents now, knowing that I won't give it to them. But I'd love if they were vaccinated first.
Yeah.
Because they don't know if I can still spread it when I'm asymptomatic. But as far as everything else, like not really. I feel like it doesn't change anything for me. I don't really social distance at work. Like I wear a mask, I'm still going to wear a mask. I guess it's nice. Like the compliance with mask wearing at work, people don't like it always slips down and things like that. So I am exposed a lot to different people, but
I'm just gonna point
I didn't
out,
end up getting COVID from a patient.
I kind of like the whole mask thing because
yeah.
when it's cold out, it keeps your
It
face
does.
pretty warm.
It
Yeah,
does,
and also
yeah.
I don't want people knowing where I am.
Yeah.
Like, if I go to the supermarket, I don't want to talk to you, man.
Or if I don't feel like wearing makeup and I have like acne, which I have all the time now from the mask.
yeah,
You don't have to wear
Yeah,
makeup
it's
you
anymore.
just
just
do
easy.
makeup from
Yeah,
from
that's
the
what I do
nose
for
up.
work. I'm not
Yeah?
joking. Yeah, because when I don't wear makeup, I look even younger. So I feel like I have to wear a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
I guess I don't know. I always make the joke when I get it. I'm like getting on a plane to Vegas and just going.
No, that's
I
not
don't
what
know.
you should- Yeah, I mean, we're probably. I heard Dr. Fauci say that herd immunity, we need like 70% of the population vaccinated, which he thinks will happen in some like late summer.
That's like I think that's an optimistic view because I don't know.
I believe
I've been
anything
talking to
is enough.
people and the rate of which they're giving out the vaccine right now, it would take 8+ years to get the entire population of America.
But Biden will be president soon.
I mean, who knows
Yeah.
what will
I
change
know,
though. I
yeah.
don't know if he can just flip on a
No.
switch
No, I don't think
and
it's.
make this shit faster.
I don't think it's a problem with the number of vaccines they have. I think it's just a problem with like
the logistics.
like
of it.
there's
Yeah.
it's easy for the government to be like, okay, we're going to give all these vaccines out, but then it's like all the hospitals, all the clinics, all all pharmacies
Has to
all
be
do
on the
things
same page,
differently.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, it's pretty good to be in the refrigeration industry right now because they're ordering a shit ton of freezers to
That's
keep
true.
because
Yeah.
you have to keep it at a certain temperature.
Yeah.
Good
It's
point.
very strict, or else like all these vaccines will spoil.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you manufacture screens and there's been a hurricane.
Yeah, that's true. Wow, are you saying there's some kind of conspiracy tied to the screen industry and hurricanes?
Obama.
Obama.
No.
So, yeah, COVID vaccine. What's
Yeah.
next?
I mean, it's the beginning of the end, I would say. So
Yeah.
I feel good about, at least that was record time. And one thing I will say is that everyone's like, how could it happen so fast? Like, did they cut corners? But they have been working on this technology for 10 years, I read. And they just, COVID just fit into that mRNA vaccine. So
Because there's other vaccines in other countries that are being developed. Like I think one of the ones that was it China or Russia had developed was not the same mechanism, and theirs is the one that doesn't have to be refrigerated
Oh,
or whatever it
interesting. I didn't
is.
know about
I think it's
that.
like a one shot, but it's not as effective. So there's other vaccines. That
yeah,
are being
I mean, it's
developed,
not
too.
like it's brand new technology.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
scientists have been working on
But
this.
at the
so.
same time, like, I think we'll look back at this moment and just be like, this is probably one of the greatest scientific
Definitely,
breakthroughs
100%. Yeah.
in modern history.
Yeah. Definitely. It's
So I don't want to take
historical,
away from that.
Yeah, for
as
sure.
much.
But as far as safety goes, people are like,
Yeah.
they don't know what's going to happen.
That's the other thing
but-
about
More for me.
getting
I'm just
the
saying.
Yeah.
the other thing about getting the 70% population vaccinated is that at least I've heard from people who say they're probably not going to get it or don't want to be one of the people who gets it first. And it's like, well, at some point somebody has to get it first.
Yeah. I was like, here, take me arm,
Yeah.
like, please give it to me. Yeah.
Even though you're young,
I think
you've had
a
it,
lot of
you know what
healthcare
it's like.
workers are like that just because we are exposed.
Yeah, maybe.
To, just
I mean,
to random people. But
I
don't
was
know.
hearing about even
I'm sure there's
staff
yeah.
in LA
Yeah.
who aren't getting it.
Yeah. I'm sure
yeah.
that's
You know, even though they're slammed there,
Yeah.
who aren't getting it because they don't want to get it.
right.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
I'm
more
sure
for me.
there's definitely people who
Right.
don't want it.
But
yeah.
it's just, to me, that's kind of strange.
Well, I've also heard
But-
like hospitals are, if they need a bed, they're kicking out the deniers, like the COVID deniers.
Oh, really?
Like,
I hadn't heard
yeah.
that.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I read that, and I
Can-
don't
is
know if
that
it's
legal?
true. But
I don't know
can
about
we
that.
Google that?
I
Probably not.
have seen it. It was a while back. It wasn't anything recently where there was a lady who was a COVID hoaxer. She thought it was a hoax.
Yeah.
What was in the hospital with COVID?
COVID, yeah.
And they were like, "Lady, this is what
You're
you have,"
dying,
and she's
lady.
like, "No, I don't.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I have
Listen,
something else. You're
it's
lying
cool.
to
Oh
me."
my gosh.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Next in line,
Yeah.
somebody else will take your spot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
like if you're going to the depths of denying COVID while they're telling health professionals and experts are telling you have COVID, while there's a 20-person line at the door of the hospital waiting to get a hospital
Right.
bed. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And the same with the vaccine, it's like not about you. It's like also about protecting other people too, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
The herd
if
immunity
everybody
thing.
could just get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be those people.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, so I didn't find anything about that, but
Yeah,
it could just be old
It's
news.
true.
Yeah.
It's true. I'm gonna stand my ground and say somewhere in America they're doing that.
So I mean, if you look at California or LA, that area, I mean, they're getting to the point where they're telling medics not to bring people who probably won't
that's
live
crazy,
back to the
yeah.
hospital. So if you're thinking maybe I could save that person versus someone who's here who's saying I don't have COVID, then it's like, well, we're not
Or I
going to
don't
treat you
believe
for
in
COVID. Leave.
COVID is a conspiracy.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it kind of makes sense. I could believe it. I don't know, liability wise, it seems not so good.
Yeah. I don't know how they're skating around that, but
Yeah.
maybe they're just letting them go. Like,
Yeah.
Hey, you're free to go. Okay. Bye.
Yeah, maybe. What is it like when you're working with kids? Like they wear masks while you're
Yeah.
giving an exam?
They do.
They're pretty good about it.
I wouldn't say pretty good. A lot of them are pretty good about it. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's hard for a kid to
Honestly,
be
I
not
feel like
fidgeting.
the adults are sometimes worse than my kids. Like
Yeah.
some adults like will pull their mask down to talk to you, and you're like,
A
that's
lot
the
of people
opposite of
do
what.
that.
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
I
I'm
don't
like,
think they
can hear you
realize.
just fine.
I think it's like I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, like you said, I think they're just doing it and they don't.
Habit. Yeah, and like
understand.
that's the thing. Like I'm sympathetic to people who also maybe don't leave the house a lot and don't wear a mask a lot.
It's socially awkward. They don't.
But
They
at the
take
same
social
time, like
cues
I straight up
the wrong way.
ask like people to put their mask on and pull their mask up if they're not
Yeah.
wearing it, right? So, but I do have to say it a lot,
I mean,
especially with the kids. Yeah,
I mean,
but a lot of times parents will help too and just be like, pull your mask up.
For me, I work from home, always have, well, before COVID at least,
Yeah.
for some period of time. And there'll be times where I don't leave the house for a while because, like,
Yeah,
here at least
exactly.
lately, you can't, there's nothing really
Yeah.
to do outside besides go for a walk. So I'll literally forget, like, I need to bring a mask with me because I have to go to Target or
Yeah.
something because I haven't kind of been out for a while. So I don't really remember what it's like, which is
Yeah.
kind of weird experience.
Right. And like I use lenses, so they get foggy a lot, and it's like a lot of people wear those masks that are like either bandanas or those ones that are like not really effective, and like the lens will get like super foggy, and I'm just like, well, that's their breath.
I'm gonna call
So-
out a business because I was there the other day and I saw two people walk in without any masks when there's a big sign on the door, the sliding doors. They say you must have a mask to enter, and nobody in the store said anything to them. They just let them go about their business. Harbor Freight Tools, which
Oh,
probably not a
interesting.
surprise.
Yes.
But shame on you guys for not enforcing that. You guys are part of the problem, not the solution.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm not sure that's going to reach anywhere, but just had to
Probably
call it
not.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really weird for
Yeah,
me.
I mean, it's
I'm like,
not
"No,
that
go."
hard. Like,
No.
people make such a big deal out of it, but like, I forget that I'm wearing it after so long. Like, it's not that. Sometimes I'll like try to drink water and I'm like, oh, it's like not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
You know, like the only thing that I don't like is it gives me acne.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or if you're wearing glasses.
Yeah, it
super
fogs
annoying,
up the
right?
glasses. Yeah.
Fogs up your glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know
That's-
why people make it such a big deal.
That's
It's
that's
like-
so weird because when we moved here is like right around the time I think they first started implementing the mandatory mask thing. And but it wasn't like in full effect yet. So I went to go pick up a pizza, I think it was down at the Michi's place, and there were people without masks on, and I was like,
This is
I just
weird.
came from Boston, and
Yeah,
like
Boston was
people
really
walking
strict
down the
about it.
street by
Yeah.
themselves wear a mask.
Yeah.
But it was really surreal, and I was just like, that's what people's faces look like. That's so weird.
Yeah.
And then,
well, it's
after
interesting.
that,
I've never seen any of my coworkers full face. Like, I mean, when we drink water and
Yeah.
stuff, but yeah. And it's actually really hard to recognize people when you're meeting a lot of people without the bottom half of their face.
Yeah, for
Totally.
sure.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But one day
One day.
we'll look normal again.
yeah.
So
So let's talk about, you're a twin, right? What's and there's a kind of like a cool story behind that, right?
Yeah, so I am a twin. My mom is older, so both my parents are older. And that's because my mom tried to get pregnant for 10 years. So she struggled with infertility, and back then in vitro was like a little newer. So she did try in vitro and she had a miscarriage. And then they figured out that my mom's body was attacking my dad's sperm, which is a really rare problem apparently. So they did this experimental procedure where they injected my mom with my dad's white blood cells to get her body like used to him. And then,
Wow.
and that's how I was born. And then my mom went through an IVF cycle.
Crazy. Just to think about that, like they put his
Yeah,
white
they
blood cells
literally
into her.
injected. Yep.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's I don't know. It might be more common now. I don't know, but back then it was kind of experimental.
And what's the success rate? For
Yeah,
that
well,
actually...
that I don't know about that, but
Okay.
in general, in vitro fertilization without that even over age 40 is only 10%, 10 to 11%.
So women over 40 who do this
In vitro.
are only 10% effective.
10% chance of conceiving.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mom like had that little procedure in between. So I think that helped her. But yeah, that's how I was born. So I was a test tube baby. So after 10 years of trying, they got 2 of us.
Yeah.
Even in vitro was pretty new back then, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So not only was the white blood cell thing
Right.
kind of experimental, but in vitro it's super expensive, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't know
It
about
sounds
back then. I know now it is.
Yeah.
Now it's
Yeah.
super expensive, but now it's like done all the time.
And it's pretty kind of, it's like rough on the woman.
It can be. My mom said she didn't have any side effects, but it definitely can be. It can cause a whole
And how many times
host of
did she have to
problems.
try it?
Twice.
Twice. Because the first time
she had
they
a
didn't,
miscarriage the first time.
and that was before they did the white blood cell
Yeah.
thing?
Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah.
then they realized, okay, this is probably what it was.
Yeah.
And then how long is that whole process? Do you know?
What process? Like in vitro or the
Yeah,
whole
the in
thing?
vitro,
For my
right.
mom, I think it was about 1.5 years, maybe.
So a year and a half, and then they find out that she's pregnant.
No, like 1.5 years for her to get the procedure and then go through another cycle of IVF. Like I know
Okay.
she had her miscarriage at age 39.
So she had the first procedure, had the miscarriage, and then she had it again, and then she became pregnant with you and
Yeah.
Tova.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which is your sister's name.
Yes.
And
it is, yeah.
and then so then was she afraid that she would have a miscarriage
She
again?
was really scared. Yeah. She told me that every time she went to the doctor, she was nervous. And the first time when she found out she had twins, she was really nervous that there would be a heartbeat at all, but then there was 2.
Oh,
so yeah,
that's so cute.
I know. Yeah. So
Yeah.
luckily it worked out in the end, but
Uh-huh.
yeah.
So
And and also like being that age is in general, even without in vitro, is just a high risk pregnancy. With twins is always a high risk
Yeah.
pregnancy, and then being older is also high risk. So combined,
Is it a high risk for a disability in the child at a old
it can
at
be
that
for both.
age?
Yeah, it can be for
Regardless if it's in vitro or
Yes.
because it's
Yep.
just the egg, right?
Yeah.
It's the age of the egg.
Yep.
So
yeah, I think they consider over 35. I don't know exactly. I'm not an OBGYN.
I think I
but
remember
I think it's over
learning in
35.
genetics
Yeah.
class it was like 40 years old.
Yeah.
You should not do much
Yeah.
after that. I mean, people do it, but I think the risk
Yeah,
is
so
just a
but
lot
we
higher.
turned out okay. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some people would question that.
Wow, throwing shade.
I know. No, but so then you guys were born,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like that process.
I know.
The
Crazy
chance
guy.
of you being born was so slim.
yeah,
That's kind of a miracle, right?
yeah, definitely.
Has that like impacted your life in any like in motivational ways or stuff like that?
Yeah. So that combined with my grandpa's story, which you guys are familiar with, but that it's definitely impacted my life. It's just shaped like who I was. I think my parents both kind of raised me. Like my dad, I remember he would come into our room every night and be like, "You're so lucky for what you have. Like never forget that you're so lucky to have everything that you have." And I think like they realized that, I mean, when I was young, I didn't realize, but it was just like a miracle that we were even alive. So because of the in vitro and my mom being older, and then also my grandpa's story, which I'll get into, but yeah, so,
Cool.
yeah, so that's just kind of shaped like how, like, I feel like the number one thing the number one way that I live my life is with gratitude. So
Yeah. And then of course, do you want to get into your mom's, I guess, would you consider that a disability or illness now?
Yeah, so she has something called spinocerebellar ataxia. So
That's a mouthful.
it is, yeah. So we just call it ataxia.
Ataxia.
Yeah,
But it's spinocerebellar is type 2.
Is there a different type of ataxia?
Yes,
I know there's.
Well, so ataxia in the medical community just means like, I think it means like loss of balance or like impaired balance or something like that.
Okay.
But spinocerebellar ataxia, there's like a bunch of types. My mom's type is autosomal dominant, so it's a genetic disease. So I have a 50-50 chance of having it. But what it is, it's a deterioration of the cerebellum. So it's a neurological condition. Her cerebellum, she cognitively, she's all there. But over time, her cerebellum will get worse.
And the cerebellum is used for what?
So any repetitive movements, the best way to think of it is if you're drunk, the cerebellum is why you can't walk.
Because it's poisoned or something.
Yeah, so the cerebellum is affected when you're drunk. Yeah.
Wow.
So my mom kind of looks like she's drunk sometimes. No offense, Mom. Shout out if you're listening. She'll admit it.
I'll be 100%
Yeah, like
drunk
my
all the
mom.
time.
My mom couldn't pass a sobriety test, and like we talked about that. Like, oh, what if you get pulled over? Like they are gonna think you're impaired.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like it's literally like being drunk. Like you can't walk straight. She has problem with any repetitive movement. So like writing, talk, or swallowing. Yeah, I would.
Does she get vertigo?
It's a little different.
Or it's more just balance.
It's more like balance.
Okay.
She explained it to me as like she feels like she's on a surfboard all day.
Whoa.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so she
Sounds nauseating.
can't drive anymore. But
So
she
even
can
when
walk.
she's sitting down, she feels like
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
off. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's worse when she's walking, but
Yeah.
like her dad had it, and she got it from her dad, and he was in a wheelchair and couldn't. I don't know if he could talk at the end.
So her dad, they didn't know what that was, right?
Yeah,
They just
he never
knew
got
he had an
tested
issue.
for it. Yeah.
Whoa.
My mom started showing symptoms around age 50, maybe like late 40s,
that's
50s.
typical.
And she got tested and she was diagnosed. And so she sees
That's typical for her type of ataxia.
Yeah.
To have
Different
it later in life.
ataxias, like I've had patients actually who have a certain type of ataxia called Friedreich's ataxia, and that onsets at like age like teens.
Oh, it's so
they
sad.
have like all my mom's symptoms as a teen, and they can't walk and things like that. So yeah, hers is like a less severe type for sure.
And so she can still walk,
She can, yeah.
but she
It's
usually
hard
has
for
to
her.
have
She has
someone
to use
help
a
her
cane
or a cane.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she might get to the point where she needs a wheelchair, but yeah, she still stays active though.
And that's super important, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fitness or
Yeah.
exercise.
So there's no
Fitness
cure.
and diet.
Yeah. There's no cure for it. But
Yet.
yeah, but I also like spreading awareness because it's such a rare disease that like doctors don't even know about it. So
Yeah.
like, she's actually in a clinical trial right now. So she's taking a pill that's like, it's at Gainesville at UF actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So she goes there and they pay for her, and she thinks she has the placebo because nothing's happening.
Yeah.
But she's heard like people who have taken it have had a lot of like slowed the progression or gotten better. But they'll give her the real pill like in a year if she is,
Okay.
it's double blind, so she
if
doesn't
she
know.
is, yeah.
Yeah, so the researchers don't know and she doesn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's another good reason to spread awareness
Yeah,
for funding for more research about
also,
it, right?
I mean, just like maybe not everyone you see is that you think is drunk is drunk. Like seriously though.
Sure,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pro-
so
probably
it's
pretty
just
small.
important to remember like people could have other issues too. Like
That's gonna be my excuse now.
right.
Nah,
Yeah,
that's-
that could be my excuse if I get tested positive.
Yeah.
Little do they know it doesn't onset till like late 40s.
If
It sounds terrible though. All jokes aside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, she does a really good job of like continuing living her life. So
I think it's
That's
really
great.
cool.
her attitude, right?
But yeah, her attitude
Yeah.
and I mean, to me she's a genius. She's
Yeah,
so
she
smart.
really
I played
is.
Scrabble
Yeah.
with her, and holy shit.
we hate playing Scrabble with her.
Yeah, but she's completely there.
Like it's
like
not
it
it's
hasn't affected her
interesting,
mentally
right?
at all.
But I think other people could perceive her as having a cognitive issue too.
Sure.
Just because of how she comes off, but
Sure.
like she doesn't
comes
at
off
all.
in what her
Like she
Maybe her
her
speech
balance
or
and, like,
something?
her
The
speech,
physical
she
things that you
slurs
can
her
observe?
words a little bit sometimes.
Okay.
But like she doesn't have any cognitive
And
impairment.
how old is she now?
She is 68.
So she's been diagnosed and has been living with it knowingly for 18 years.
Yeah, and it's progressive, so it gets worse over time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
And-
what, like we talked about, so the exercise. So she exercises every
she
day.
does. Yep.
And what does she do?
She just won a recumbent bicycle, which is like you can sit in it and like pedal. So she won that over the summer. So she does that a lot, and she does the bike.
And did she won that?
Cycle.
What was that? That not competition, but
Yeah,
award.
it was a competition.
It was a competition, right? Was that specifically for ataxia patients?
Yep. Yep.
It was to
Yeah.
just charity
To promote
kind of thing.
athleticism and
Okay.
ataxia patients. Yeah.
And how did she win it?
I wrote her recommendation letter, and
Aw.
so did my aunt.
I thought you meant like she
competed?
like won a race or something.
No, she probably
I was like,
could,
she was
but
doping.
no.
She's a regular
No,
Lance
she won a
Armstrong.
contest
Is-
based on her character and stuff.
Okay,
Like
cool.
she won
So
a
she
bike.
won a
Yeah,
bike. Okay.
yeah, in a
That's cool.
contest. Yeah. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your grandpa has
Yes.
a pretty interesting story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my grandpa, where to begin? So he.
It's a kind of a big deal.
Yeah. So basically, my grandpa Tuvia Belsky, he was a leader of a partisan group, a Jewish partisan group, who. It was the biggest rescue of Jews by Jews. So in World War II, during the Holocaust, he basically created a village in the forest,
Wow.
and he ended up saving over 1,200 people.
This is the Defiance movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Daniel Craig
Yeah. It's my
played your grandpa.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
crazy is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I got to go to the premiere when I was like 15 and like meet all the actors and stuff. And
Yeah.
they were more in awe of our family than we were in awe of them, like
Oh,
being
I'm
these
sure.
famous actors, just because they knew the story so well.
And they played these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
was
so they're like,
crazy.
wow,
Yeah.
like you are the descendants of
Right.
these
My dad like
people.
went to Lithuania where they were filming and like drank vodka with them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But yeah, so that movie definitely like helped because the story was so not known at all.
So World War II happens.
Yeah.
The Nazis and Germany invade all these
Yes.
countries. They
Yeah.
come in. And so your family was pretty much in hiding in the woods.
Yeah, so
then-
my family, my grandpa, were some of the only Polish Jews in this area. And when the Nazis came, they started a community in the forest. First, it was just like family, friends. But then like my grandpa just would accept anybody who came. So there was missions to get people out of the ghettos, which are, where the Jews were kept during the Holocaust.
So
different
Germans
cities.
would enter town. They would
Take it over.
remove all of the Jews from their homes and
Yes.
put them in these
Camps.
essentially like
Yeah.
they call them ghettos, but they're like really small, tight, like apartment buildings, like very
Yeah,
poor
barely.
conditions. Yeah,
Yeah,
barely. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And
Like overcrowded, like
so your
really
grandpa,
bad
your
conditions.
grandpa would go in or with
Some
other people,
people, yeah.
yeah, and they would convince
people to leave
the
and
Jewish
escape to
people
the
and
forest.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
like hey,
Yeah.
this is a lot better.
So there's
yeah.
actually one story that there was a tunnel. So in one of the ghettos, these people decided to build a tunnel because they had heard of the Bosque Partisans. They had been in contact with them, and it was too dangerous for the Belskis to come and get them. So they actually built a underground tunnel to escape the ghetto and
Whoa.
into the woods. Yeah,
Wow. That's crazy.
I know. Yeah.
And how long did this last?
So I think 2 years, a little over 2
my
years.
God.
And so they were in the forest moving around like anytime the Nazi, at first it was pretty, like they would move a lot.
Yeah.
But then they got kind of established in the Nalibaki forest, which is in modern day Belarus, but I think it was Poland
So
back then.
Belarus is kind of like, if you know where Poland is,
Yeah.
it's a bit east of that, right?
I think so.
A little bit kind of on the northern eastern side near Lithuania.
Yeah, yeah.
So that kind of location.
Right.
It's kind of between Russia and Europe.
Yeah.
And that's why there was a lot of conflict between the Russians and the Polish
Right. So who would
over that
occupy the
territory.
area?
And
Yeah,
now
exactly.
it's Belarus.
Yeah. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So they established and they had workshops in the forest. Like they had a shoemaker. They had
their
a
own
school.
little community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what was unique about them is they actually would accept kids and women, which a lot of partisan groups were Russian, and they just existed to fight and get revenge and kill
What do you
the Germans.
What do you mean when you say partisan?
So partisan basically, look up the definition, the exact definition, but So basically, it's a group that it signifies fighters who
Like militia.
I don't know about that, but what is it? What is it?
So
say
a
the
partisan is
definition
just a committed member of a political party or army.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
just what, yeah. So a lot of it signifies like the Russian partisans would like get revenge on the Germans by like bombing train tracks and things like that, the little things that they could do.
Okay.
My grandpa's group, they call them the Bosque Partisans, but they were a little unique because their goal wasn't to get revenge on the Germans. They just wanted to save Jewish lives. So that was like my grandpa. He just strongly believed in that. He said, you know, he doesn't want to kill. He would kill if he had to. But his main goal was to save Jewish lives.
Right.
And that was unique. So I think there was only like 2 main Jewish partisan groups of completely Jewish.
Jews saving Jews.
A lot of them were Soviet, like Russian.
Did they?
Gotcha.
I mean, did they have non-Jews that were joining the group as well,
They were
or
probably.
was it mainly people coming from the
mainly
ghettos
Jew-
and
yeah,
stuff?
it was mainly Jews. Maybe like a few. I don't really know, but
I mean, I'm sure they would have accepted them, but
Yeah,
it was
like-
mostly
yeah.
Jewish people.
So
Yeah.
I mean, the main thing is that they accepted women and children who were seen as like not valuable at all because they couldn't
Yeah.
fight necessarily. You know, so it was just unique all around
Wow.
what their goal was.
Yeah.
Only 50 people, around 50 they estimate, died the whole time. So they
Wow.
still have 1,200 people.
Which is crazy.
1,200
For
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah. And like think
Jeez.
about like
It's a
6
big community
6
in the
million,
woods.
yeah, 6 million Jews were killed during the Holocaust,
Yeah.
but like it was just such a like for 1,200 to be the biggest rescue of Jews by Jews, like it's nothing, but it also is like the biggest, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
they were like hunted constantly. So it's just amazing that they survived.
Living through the winter. I mean, I can't
Oh my
imagine
gosh, yeah.
being here, which I think it probably
Yeah.
gets colder there than it does
Yeah.
here.
I think it does. Yeah.
Probably.
Living
yeah.
outside.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
Yeah.
and like not being able to be like, okay, I'm going to pack what I need to live outside for the next 2 years. Like they left their homes in a hurry and they had to go find what they
and they would accept
needed.
anybody too, which is crazy. Like they would just find food from the surrounding
Right.
communities.
Because
and
like not only our children and maybe some women at that time were useless
Yeah.
to like their living in the woods, but it could be even worse because babies cry,
yeah,
so they could give their position away if there's a lot of noise or something,
Yeah, it's
or in the
also
time of an attack
Right.
when they're
Yeah.
being hunted,
more
moving
mouths
slower.
to feed. I
mm-hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
if you have less women and children,
right.
less mouths to feed. So
Yeah.
it definitely
Right.
was kind of a big deal to.
I mean, that's
accept
just
everybody.
to wrap your mind around 1,200 people. Like what they would do is they would make these little dugouts, and that's where they would live. I think it was like 30 to 40 people. They would have groups, so they would move in groups, and that way they could kind of move more efficiently and without being seen. But they had like a clinic, like a hospital. They had doctors and like
Wow.
everything you would need. Yeah. So
Crazy.
they called it Jerusalem in the woods. So it's like Jerusalem is like,
Yeah.
so that's like when people got there, that was like, people went
Salvation.
on these crazy journeys to get there, and a lot of people
So I
died
heard-
on the way.
Yeah, I'm sure they heard rumors. Like
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
place where you're safe.
Not only
and-
that, but the Nazis like knew all about my grandpa's
Oh,
group.
sure.
So they were trying to hunt them at all times. Yeah.
What was kind of the start was basically because your grandfather had how many siblings did he have who were out there with him?
He had 3.
Three.
2 were kind of co-leaders with him, and then one was a younger. He had a lot more
A lot of
siblings,
siblings,
than that.
right?
Yeah,
And
but in the forest,
And
just those.
his parents, your
Yeah,
great
they were
grandparents,
full, yeah.
they had a farm, was
Yeah,
it?
they did. Yep, in Poland.
And they had at some point been murdered by, was it the Germans or who
Yeah,
was that?
yeah, I believe it was the Germans. Yeah.
Because why did they murder them?
I mean, because they were Jews.
Right.
Like, I don't know the details, but at the beginning of the start, they were, yeah.
And they were pretty well known, right? The Belskis in that area?
I don't know. It might have been because they had, they wanted to take what was theirs, but
Sure.
I don't know exactly the details. Yeah.
And then Tuvia at the time wasn't living with his parents. He was off living with his wife at the time, right? In another town.
He was a little well known in the community because his wife was kind of like higher status. And I think he might have been living with her when everything happened, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at some point
They all got together, and at first it was just the family and then the family friends, but soon it just grew to be anybody who
and they had
came.
to fight against people coming after them. They had to get medicine, right? Like in the winter against sicknesses, food, things to keep them warm, things like that. I'm sure there was internal fighting too.
Yeah, definitely there was. Yeah. And my grandpa, I mean, everybody calls him an unlikely leader. He was just really, he's been described as like really charismatic and likable, and, not necessarily like a tough guy who like, put people in their place, but that's what he did. He put people in their place when he had to, in order to keep order. But he was like, everybody loved him. That's why I think that it was so successful, because everybody just did what he said and, trusted his word. So seemed
like it worked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a crazy
it's just crazy,
story.
like all the factors that had to come together for that to happen. Like,
right.
It's just crazy.
And you met a lot of the descendants of the people that your grandpa helped save, right?
Yeah. A lot of times I was younger when I met them, but me and Myles, remember when we went to Leia's.
Yeah. Leia Johnson.
Yeah, so we got to hear her talk about what it was like in the woods, and I wish we videotaped.
So she was one of the
time,
people that
she was like in the core,
was in the woods, obviously.
Yeah. And they had a core group of like family members who were like higher up and had more, and she was
she was
very
good
close
friends
to the
with your
family.
grandma and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And my grandma and grandpa, they knew of each other before the war, but they got together in the forest.
Oh, a little forest magic.
Yeah. So,
nice.
So in the movie, that's my grandma and grandpa. Like they made it so that they met, but really they knew of each other before. But
so I thought it was awesome to talk to Leia Johnson, because personally, growing up, I mean, I think it was like year after year, we always heard about Anne Frank. You always watched the movie. You always read part of the diary, whatever. You saw the boxcar, at least for us.
Right.
I don't know about other parts of the country, but where we grew up, we saw that all the time. That's a lot of what we knew about the Holocaust and World War II was kind of Anne Frank and like the general idea. I think they use her as kind of like the idea of this is what Jews had to do. This is what happened to them and their families. But to me, it was all like very third person. Like I wasn't very connected to that. I knew people who were Jewish,
right.
But then to meet somebody who went through that, I thought was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
like incredible.
Right.
Because it almost seems like something like that could have never ever happened.
I know,
or could never happen.
It does.
And unfortunately, there's people who believe that, but but it's I thought it was crazy to talk to her and the story she was able to tell.
Yeah. And what's interesting, it's just crazy because every single one of those people have a crazy story, because just getting to the group alone, like they had to endure so much. But like thinking about like it was 1,200 people and like thousands of people are alive today because of that.
Right.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
And me and Myles went to an event in New York. And a lot of the descendants of people who my
it was like a convention for the survivors
what
or the
was it
families
again?
of
it was at the
survivors,
Holocaust Museum,
Yeah.
and it was
So they have a Holocaust museum in New York that's kind of like on the Bay Area, I think. And it was just, I think, getting people together and seeing
they
each other.
wanted to
talking.
they're trying to make a museum in Belarus
That's right.
in that area that my grandpa saved. So I think they were trying to like, it was like a fundraising event,
But it was so
essentially.
cool.
But like all the people stood up and they were like, Tuvia Belsky, or my grandpa or my father was in the group, and it was just crazy, like to hear,
or people who know that their father or grandfather had this experience about a tunnel,
right?
And they're like, maybe somebody knows who they are. Like maybe one of your parents know who my parent was, and we have something in common. Like there are people who don't know if they were part of the the Belsky group, or maybe they passed away before that, but they knew people who were in that group. And so it was really cool.
Yeah.
Like I think there were people who were descendants of some of the people who had gone through the tunnel that was created.
Yeah,
right?
and in the group. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And everyone stood up and kind of said like what their connection was. So it was cool.
I think there's not that many living partisans left.
Yeah, Holocaust survivors.
But
yeah.
there's a lot of descendants.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's important for people to continue telling those stories, because
definitely.
like you've brought up kind of recently, there's a lot of people who have started kind of becoming deniers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That kind
Yeah.
of thing never happened or
Right.
could never happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of anti-Semitism
Well,
now.
and also there are people who don't know, like if you don't have any connection to it, like a lot of the general person might not know that like 6 million Jews were killed, and that's a huge number.
Yeah.
So it's just important to keep it, you know, because that if
Yeah.
it happened once, it can happen again, right? Like,
Mhm.
and it
Yes.
wasn't that long ago, so it's just
It
important
really
to keep that
wasn't.
in mind.
It's crazy to
Yeah,
think.
it really,
Yeah.
yeah. I actually saw one of the the rioters, not protesters, at the Capitol building. They had a shirt that said 6MWE, which means 6 million wasn't enough.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So like they're neo-Nazis, like those kind of people.
Jesus.
And then someone had like a Camp Auschwitz
So
shirt.
sad.
And, like,
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Isn't that crazy? So like
Because
people,
something happened to
and
them
that's
when
such
they
a small
grew
part
up,
of the
probably.
population. Yeah. It's such a small part of the
But
population.
why target, like, that was an obvious
I mean, I'm just saying it still exists. Like,
yeah, it's
yeah.
so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's important to give people, like, I think it would be great to have your dad on
Oh, yeah.
the podcast.
Yeah,
like, give people
definitely.
who have direct experiences with monumental points in history
Yeah.
a platform, a megaphone to,
Yeah.
because, you know, when your dad, hopefully in 100 years or whatever, moves on from this life,
Yeah.
his stories, unless they're told,
Right.
they leave with him.
Right.
Yes.
And also memory. Like I
yeah.
feel like I want to videotape everything
Mm-hmm.
because it's just like your memory. Only
Your
lasts
memory
so long,
changes,
right?
you
Like,
lose things.
yeah.
That's why the last time Leia Johnson
she
unfortunately passed away
this year,
recently.
I think. Yeah.
Rest in peace. But we actually had asked her some questions that kind of hadn't been talked about
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
before, and we recorded them.
Yeah.
So now we actually have a recording of the things she said, which I think is a great thing, because that recording can last forever.
Right. Yeah.
It's important. Yep.
Yeah. And I'm glad she got to meet you.
Yeah.
She really likes you.
we don't want another event like that to have people
Yeah.
have to
And it just,
have to
like,
be the first
to
person
give
to say that.
context too, like just not knowing about it, it's not anyone's fault, but a lot of people just don't know what
Mm-hmm.
happened, you know? And like
Yeah.
they teach it in schools, but it's like you don't really understand until you're older.
Well, yeah,
So,
there's a lot of events in history. I mean, slavery in the U.S.
Right.
I don't know anyone personally whose family member was a slave.
yeah.
Maybe I know people who
Yeah.
who are descendants of that, but that's another surreal type of thing, and that's another thing you don't want to ever happen in history. So it's good for people to always keep talking about that kind of stuff.
I feel like slavery and like the Holocaust, and I'm hoping they talk more about the way Native Americans are treated,
Yeah.
more so than they did when I was growing up. But those are the three things I think that you're first introduced to as a kid that alludes to the fact that the world isn't so sunshine and butterflies and rainbows.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
on the opposite end, it kind of like makes you grateful for what you have, right?
Totally.
Like, because a lot of people, especially like the younger generation, they're just like entitled. And it's like, if you realized how lucky we were, you know, to even be alive, and we don't have to experience anything like that in our lifetime. Like people complain about wearing a mask, but like we're not in World War II or anything.
Yeah,
It's
things
like,
are still
this is
good.
like nothing compared to like what they
Yeah.
went through. And like we can still struggle with it and everything, but like just have some context, like historical context. But I think like in schools, it would have been nice to read like a book, like a fiction book or like a novel based on it, because in textbooks, like you kind of like drown that out when you're a kid. At least I did. Like
Yeah.
a lot of times in
For
school,
sure.
like dates, like don't care. Like my mind is turned off. But if you can like read an actual like story of like a person's experience through that
Or,
time,
or
like it
meet
gets-
somebody
Exactly.
who has some
Yeah.
kind of relation to that.
And even
Those
for
are the
young
best
kids-
memories I have in school, when
Yeah.
I met someone, not met someone, but like
Yeah.
someone who was in the Holocaust gave a speech, and I was there
Yeah.
to hear it.
Right.
I remember
Yeah.
that too.
Like it shouldn't be like textbook. Like it should be like real stories.
If you can,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, and I think we've talked about this before, but there was it's like a graphic novel
Oh,
where
yeah.
the Polish people are like pigs.
Is
like
it
they're-
Mouse?
I can't
or
remember,
no?
but we read it in school, and I thought that was a really great way to help tell other than just text in the textbook, like keep kids
Engaged.
engaged in the topic that's so important to learn about. And we did learn every year we learned about the Holocaust and some other piece of it, and they brought out different things and speakers, to Miles's point, but I think we need more stories like that, like media
or real stories.
outlets
Definitely.
telling these stories in unique ways to help spread or stop disinformation.
Yeah, that's true. Because I mean, none of that stuff is like those events, like slavery and the Holocaust, aren't unique to our past couple hundred years. That stuff has there's been slavery before. There's been genocides. There's been genocides on a smaller scale very recently in Africa. That we don't really talk about that much, but it happens, and it will probably happen in the future. But
unfortunately,
if we hopefully globalization kind of changes that when people accept each other a bit more. But yeah, it's just history. Everyone says the same thing, like it repeats itself, and it's totally
and
true.
I don't blame anybody, I think, for not being ignorant about certain things. But I think at least just an open mind and willingness to learn about other people who it doesn't serve you anything to know about this particular group struggling, but it just makes you aware. It's just good to be aware in general, of all kinds of cultures and all kinds of struggles. So
for sure.
What if people are interested in the story more? What's the best way to learn more about it?
I mean, you can definitely just Google Tuvia Belsky. There's a ton of stuff.
Wikipedia.
Defiance it's a really good movie. I think it's really entertaining too. Not that I'm biased, but
how close to the real thing? I mean,
a lot of it was accurate.
Know, but,
a lot of
you
it
read
was
the other
accurate.
books, right?
Yeah. I mean, even I've heard that a lot of the reviews in Hollywood said that he was on a white horse, and that was not realistic. It was making him more noble, but he actually had a white horse. That's what my parents said, at least.
It's funny.
But yeah, so Defiance is a good one. And then there's two books that one's a historical, it's a little dense, but I think it's really good. It's just factual. It's called Defiance. And then there's another book that's a little more easy to digest, I would say, called The Belsky Brothers. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And how did that story end? So what happened at the end?
They were liberated, and everybody, well, I wouldn't say everyone lived happily ever after. So
how did when you say liberated, by who? By
the
what?
Russians.
The Russians.
Yeah.
Nice.
So when the war ended. Yeah.
Okay. So when kind of the Germans were kind
retreating,
of cleaning things and let's get out of here.
Beat. Yeah.
Or the Nazis, I should say.
Yeah.
And so then. So after that point, where did the people
everybody,
in
a
Tuvia
lot
go?
of people didn't know what to do because they lost everything, and a lot of people couldn't find their family again.
Did they?
A lot of people were super sick, couldn't, malnourished. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't the end of the struggle, but
things got a little bit better.
Yeah.
They weren't being hunted anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
That alone
so they could get
a little bit better.
Kind of. I mean, I guess you could. So to me, it's hard to think about that there was just this line that was okay, now the war is over, things are good.
I mean, honestly, I can't.
If you went down the street to a house that had a Nazi living in it, or someone that hated Jews, it's not like they were just come on in, I'll help you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's hard for me to wrap my mind around too. Exactly what that transition was like. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know it wasn't easy. It wasn't snap, the war's over, everything's good again. It people still struggled a lot.
Right. Because we don't really think about we don't think about what's all the struggles after the war.
Right. Yeah.
So then what did Tuvia do? He went to Israel, right?
He did, and that's where my dad was born. Mm-hmm. And then they came over to America. They immigrated to America. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Did your dad have a dual citizenship?
He does, yeah.
That's cool.
Yep. Yeah, and I think technically I could get one if I wanted.
Yeah. A birthright or something.
Yeah. Like that. Yeah. But we went to Israel when I was 14.
That's cool.
Yeah, and we went. I remember going to the Holocaust Museum, and they like gave us a tour and everything.
Wow, like a
I would love to go
special
back.
VIP tour.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I would love to go back because I feel like I don't remember much because I was so young. But
It's
He's
it's
buried
crazy
there, too.
that we've been to Holocaust museums and it's like, here's your grandpa.
everyone, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know,
It's got his own
Yeah.
little section.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember we went to the exhibit in Tampa.
that's like a traveling exhibit. I
Yeah.
think they move it to different
I'm like,
museums.
oh, there's a video of my dad. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I just think that it's good for people to know about this story. But like, aside from just Jewish people, like, I feel like a lot of Jewish people go to Holocaust museums and some non-Jewish people, but I like wish that more non-Jewish people could have awareness of the story. So
Yeah.
I think that movie was good for that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah.
So, wow, we've talked about a lot. We talked about COVID, talked about how you were born and
Yes.
the struggles with that, and
Taxia.
your grandpa's story.
Grandpa.
What is it? You're passionate about nutrition, right? Or at
Yeah.
least somewhat, and it's a very hot thing to be passionate about right
Yeah.
now. What do you have a message for people, or just a general understanding or perspective of that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of people don't know how good they can feel if they eat just whole foods. And that's not the standard American diet. Like, you have to go out of your way to eat healthy and whole foods, which is kind of sad in my opinion. Like, I feel like the American diet is just money driven and like easiest
Like
thing to
everything.
make, right?
And I apologize. This is such a weird pivot. We got
Yeah.
super serious about the Holocaust, and now like, let's
No,
talk about
yeah.
nutrition and like, Whole Foods.
Gosh,
Like,
Chase, don't you have a better
I'm gonna
topic?
acknowledge that because this is kind of,
Yeah.
I have to the
kinda
elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I saying?
But I guess this kind of
Yeah.
comes full circle from like going back through kind of like living a good life
Yeah,
and like
well-
having good experiences, and if
Yeah.
you know, like how it's better for your mom to have a better diet and better exercise for her
Yeah.
disease. And
I mean, I just think, well, my grandpa's story like inspires every day of my life, and that's just like how I grew up. Like, I remember my mom telling me stories when me and my sister were 4 in bed. Like, she would tailor them to a 4-year-old, but she would like tell us about the shoe workshop or whatever, like as a bedtime story. So I grew up like with that as in the center of my mind. And that's kind of just made me want to enjoy life to the fullest. And I think a lot of people don't realize like a huge way to do that is healthy eating. That's a better segue, right?
There you go. I love it. Wow.
But yeah, so I don't know. I just am passionate about whole foods and eating healthy and exercising, because I feel like if you want to do everything that life has to offer, you need to feel your best. Like, if I'm exhausted, I'm not going to want to go like hike a mountain, right? So I just feel like people don't realize the power of what they put in their mouth.
can we
It's huge.
real quick,
Yeah.
what are whole foods? What does that mean?
Like unprocessed, like,
And what does that mean?
so like an apple.
An apple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like organic.
Nothing that has nothing in a bag, like nothing in a box.
So like
Like
peanut
it's
butter.
grown and it's picked. And
So
then
what
it's,
I personally look for is things with like one or a few ingredients, right? So I try to eat like mostly whole foods, like avocados, like fish.
So what
things like
about
that.
peanut butter?
Yeah, that's
Is
fine.
that considered
Yeah.
whole food, even though it's been processed?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe you should look up the exact
But your
definition.
point is
But
not that you have to just eat
you don't
apples
have
and
to
broccoli.
be perfect. No. And
Right.
like, people think like I enjoy, like you said before, like I love food, right? Like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to eat anything bad tasting, but I eat foods that make me feel good. That's all.
how did
And,
you
like,
come to this revolution?
well, having IBS, so I literally cannot eat unhealthy foods without feeling horrible.
What is that? IBS?
It's like irritable bowel syndrome. I think that I have it. Like, I just have a really sensitive stomach, so I kind of grew up like some things would make me feel really bad when I ate them. But then when I started eating healthier, I just like several things have inspired me to eat healthier. One being like my mom's condition, and just, in general.
being able to live your life longer.
Yeah,
healthier.
like I just like want to be healthy in general, right? So since I've been a teenager, I've been eating healthy foods, just experimenting, and I just feel better when I eat that way. And I think a lot of people don't realize the power of what they eat. So, and now being in the medical community, there's so many studies that show that like even glaucoma can be treated with certain foods, but in such high quantities that it's not realistic, right? So like modern medicine still is necessary, but a lot of diseases are preventable by eating healthy. So like diabetes, hypertension,
Right.
and a lot of it has genetic components, but I think that a lot of our world's problems can be solved by eating healthy, and there's just being a more focus on everybody eating healthy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I was listening to an audiobook today, and the guy was talking about how people sometimes like they'll go to the doctor and they have an issue and they're like, why do I have this issue? Like,
Yeah.
you know, hypertension or diabetes. And it's like, well, you've been eating horribly your whole life. And then the analogy you brought up was like, if you have a hammer and you keep hitting yourself with the hammer, you're going to go to the doctor and be like, fix me. And the doctor's like, I can't, you've been
Right.
hitting yourself with a hammer.
Yeah.
Right. Like all this time.
Yeah,
And so
and like
people,
I think
people don't realize what they might be doing to their body long term.
right. And I don't know what like the general person thinks about food and nutrition in general, because I've been this way for a while. Like I just eat, like, I think because I'm so sensitive, like I just only eat things that make me feel good. And I've noticed like when I eat things that I like sugar and, you know, processed foods, like I'm human. I love those things too. Like ice cream, things like that. Like I just feel horrible, you know, like my stomach hurts, like I feel sluggish. So just to feel my best, like I feel like if you have never eaten that way, like whole foods, you don't know how good you could feel, you know?
So you have found that eating a whole foods diet
Yeah.
works for you.
Yeah.
Do you now discredit all these other diets or healthy ways of living, or are you more of like try whatever works for you type of attitude?
The second one, like I think that certain things are definitely bad, right? Like fried foods, definitely bad. But maybe some people can handle a little more meat than others. Like my body doesn't do well with meat, so I don't eat meat. But my body does really well with fish, so I eat fish. And I think certain people might be, you know, feel better when they eat this. I think you should just eat what makes you feel good. But if you think, like a lot of people don't realize that food could be causing that.
Krispy
You do what I
Kremes
mean?
makes me feel
Yeah.
freaking
Right.
great.
There's like certain foods that are good for the soul. But
I
Yeah.
love Krispy
like,
Kremes.
don't get me wrong. Like you can still eat that stuff, but it's just like about,
But there's some
Most-
science behind stuff like that, right?
what do you mean?
Like eating saturated fats versus unsaturated fats. I think our friend Michael Butler has brought up where there may be some research that shows that saturated fats cause inflammation,
Yeah, definitely.
which
Yeah.
could lead to some ailments in the
there's
body.
so much, like peanuts are more inflammatory than almonds, right? Like there's just like a ton of stuff but it's like, I think if you go by how you feel, like that's the best way, but you have to be really in tune with that, you know?
Has anyone ever eaten a Big Mac and felt good after?
Right. Like, no, you haven't. Have you really?
No.
Like,
For
remember
the
that
first
one time
30
you went to
minutes,
Vegas?
I feel like I'm living on.
Remember when we went to Vegas and me and Miles ate In-N-Out and like we
threw up
died?
after?
In-N-Out is not good for you. How dare you?
In-N-Out
But
has a lot
I'm
of
not saying
COVID
you
in
should
it.
never eat that stuff, but like, I don't know. I feel like people are always like, "Why you're doing so many things?" And I'm like, "Yeah," but I'm just like, I feel good to do them, you know, like.
And you
And
think
I
it
can
might be because
tell-
of your diet?
Yeah, well, I can tell when I eat bad, like I feel bad.
Well, it's
I
like when
just-
you eat dairy, right? Because you're
Yeah.
lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
So you're gonna feel bad after eating
Right.
it, and when you
What
do,
about
you
the
do.
people that eat that type of food all the time and don't know how good it could be, and they just think that feeling this way
It's normal.
is normal? Like,
I mean, I would
what
just
is
say
your
tr-
suggestion for them to kind of break out of those bad
Yeah,
habits?
I would say like don't think about it as like restricting, like just think about it as adding things. Like I
Adding
guess
Krispy Kreme.
what? No. Like I don't know, I'm weird. Like I really like trying new foods, like vegetables and things. So like I'll be like, I'm gonna try this one today. Like I don't know. I would think about trying things that you haven't tried before, like adding things to your diet, not taking away. Like you can still have Krispy Kreme, but like maybe try this like broccoli or like different type of squash that you haven't tried before, you know? Like just try adding things.
Yeah, I
and see
learned
what happens.
I learned that I like a lot of different foods that
Yeah.
I never would have tried. Like A lot of different
Lox?
squashes,
You like lox?
lox, a lot of different like roasted Brussels sprouts I really like. A lot of things that Sarah helped introduce to my diet that are just good things that doctors have always said are good
Yeah.
for you, greens, things
And
like
also,
that.
once you start eating that way, you actually crave that stuff. Like
That's
if
true.
if I like, for example, like in December, I kind of got off track and just ate a bunch of sweets because that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I just want a salad so bad. Like I just craved a salad, you know, because that's
kinda
what I'm
like
used to.
When you and I would go every Tuesday and Friday to Walmart, and we'd pick up our Tuesday and Friday Taco Bell with
It's
our
a
Baja
habit.
Blast, and
It's
we would
probably
take it
more
back.
frequently than that.
Yeah, it probably was. I was just trying to make it sound better, but and then we would get we'd want it the next week, and then at some point I stopped eating Taco Bell, and it after a while sounded disgusting.
Yeah, but
At first I was like, damn, I really wish I had some Taco Bell, and then it was just like, that doesn't even sound good anymore.
yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. It's Taco Bell. I'll always still go to Taco Bell because of the Baja Blast. That's the one thing they have that's consistent. They always change in their menu, you know? Like,
Do you just go there and order like 10 large sodas, fill it up, and then bring it home, stick it in your fridge?
Yeah, I mean, and quite honestly, I think they've caught on because now they just won't even add any ice cubes, so they can maximize the amount of Baja Blast I can get.
Ooh, nice.
And I'm not saying that I haven't filled up my Camelback with Baja Blast and gone hiking before, but y'all should try it.
True.
No, I think it's all about like what works for you.
Yeah.
And getting like blood work done and understanding like the metrics. Like the coolest thing that I found out was like going to the like some doctors have like this online portal where they'll upload like your metrics, like your glucose levels, your sodium levels, calcium levels, and then you can pull that up on an app. Like how cool is that? Like that you can start to understand from a quantitative like level where you need to be, where you're at, what foods, it's like looking up what foods can affect these levels, what can help your cholesterol, what can make it worse, and then just trying to marry all of that data together to create like a, not like a meal plan, but like a diet of sorts. And not necessarily being like, oh no, only keto works. Oh no, only the South Beach diet works.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I'm sure those things have helped many people and continue to help many people lose weight or have a healthier lifestyle and feel better. But I think it's all about what's best for you, because doing a South Beach diet for you may work, but for me, it may not increase my metrics or make me healthier or, overall lifestyle better.
On the topic of diets, I mean, a diet is basically just like the way you eat, but
Yeah,
I think
but
those like temporary diets actually can be kind of bad, right? Just the concept of
I
dieting.
mean, the concept of restricting what you eat. I used to be like that, and I don't think that's a healthy way to live your life.
Elimination diets.
You should,
Yeah, well, just like restricting, like I can't have that, like like thinking like you can't have something like that's not
Right.
healthy.
right?
Like
Where-
how
where-
about
Krispy
I can
Kreme.
have this, but like not every day.
Right.
Like
I can't
yeah,
have Baja
like
Blast.
I wouldn't say like I can never have Krispy Kreme. Like I can have Krispy Kreme
Yeah.
if I want it, like but just not every day.
Where you say like, I am not gonna have sugar for this period
Yeah,
of time.
although I did do that
It would be
recently, and it was
better.
really
It would
difficult.
probably be better to just like have less
Yeah.
sugar in your diet in general.
That's
Versus
so
do
fun.
that
I try
for
to think of like 80% healthy and 20% unhealthy because like
Yeah.
I think I still love ice cream and cookies, you know.
I
Like
was
and
at-
I
No, sorry, girl. I didn't mean to. And
No,
I thought
no,
you were.
no, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say when I went to the doctor,
yeah.
I have a little bit of high cholesterol. All
Sounds
it's
like
just-
too much Krispy Kreme.
It could be. It could be. But here's what I was like. "Yeah, so, doc, what do you think like I should do to get these levels down?" And he's like, "Yeah, they're like a little high. Maybe try like like less meat. Like more specifically like less red meat.
Yeah.
And more chicken and more like fish and stuff like
Right.
that." And I was like, well, I have a bit of a sweet tooth. And he's like, no, that's not gonna, that's fine. Which is like,
But
to
I mean,
me,
yeah,
I
that's fine for
internalized
you.
that as like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
home, I'm gonna sugar binge for the rest
Right.
of the day.
Eat Krispy
Cool.
Kreme.
My doctor just gave me a hall pass for like freaking bag of Skittles.
Yeah.
What he should have said is
Technically,
like,
he's right. Like, that doesn't affect your cholesterol.
right. But what he should have said was, nah, but you shouldn't be eating a lot of sugar anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
You should
I
take.
think
There's
also,
a
like-
there's a drug called Visipa.
Yeah.
It's a newer drug. It's basically like fish oil. But you should take that.
Yeah.
You're not a doctor, so I'm gonna if I take that and something bad happens, I'm gonna sue you.
It's okay.
Because
I have liability insurance.
Actually, he did give me it was like krill oil.
Oh, yeah. Like
He
fish
said,
oil, probably?
yeah, like it's like
Yeah.
a fish oil essentially, but from like shellfish. And then
He prescribed it?
a turmeric.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, turmeric.
Yeah, turmeric, yeah.
Turmeric, yeah.
Yeah. See, like, I feel like I'm listening the same audiobook like we listened to earlier.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you guys are so cute.
I know.
What? Well, I made him listen to it. I forced him, so
Oh,
not
okay.
that cute.
All right.
But
We were
said, like,
to give context, we
Yeah.
were sitting outside of the store that sells a bunch of alcohol.
yes, that is accurate.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool,
and
cool,
same
cool.
thing with like alcohol. Like I love alcohol, but I try to have it in moderation. But anyway, so what was my point? Oh yeah, so we're saying that a lot of things that doctors give pills for could just be treated with a healthy diet. So a whole food plant-based diet. This book is about the China study and the whole food plant-based diet in particular. And they said a diabetic person, if this person goes on the whole food plant-based diet, the first day they have to be monitored so closely, because if they're on all these diabetic medications, their blood sugar can drop so drastically even in one day. Like, that's how effective it is.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like alcoholics when they
Yeah,
like
stop drinking
completely
alcohol.
cold
Exactly.
turkey, they can
Yeah.
like die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think like I like nutrition, just I find it interesting, and I feel like all those diets, like a lot of the things that they have in common is whole foods. Like, that's not really a diet, right? Like, that's just like a certain type of food. And I feel like no one can argue that that's not healthy.
Okay.
You know?
Carrots.
Yeah.
Let's just decide right now and cut out all the bullshit. Does it help my vision or does it not?
So
I need
not
to know.
really. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the whole...
Because it has vitamin A in it, which is
Oh.
like important for the visual cycle. I don't know why people say that though. Like, I don't think it helps that much.
So you don't think vitamin A helps that much?
I mean,
like your vision, it's not gonna make a difference in your
No.
vision.
What food should I be eating to improve my overall eye health?
Yeah. I mean, so if someone's diagnosed with macular degeneration, we tell them to eat leafy greens. We actually give vitamins for those people.
Okay, hold up. What is that?
Oh, okay. So macular degeneration is basically like the accumulation of waste products in the macula, which is like the besting part of your eyeball, the back of the eye, which is the retina.
Waste products
Does that make
like
sense?
poop?
Like, basically, kind of like
Oh.
your eye produces like waste products and it builds up and can cause blindness.
Ew. Ew, that's gross. I got
So
eye poop.
literally, like,
I got eye
kind
poop?
I
Yeah.
mean, not everybody. There's a genetic predisposition, but it's just waste products, and we tell people to eat healthy, like dark green vegetables, and we give vitamins.
Why
vitamin
dark
supplementation.
green vegetables?
That's a great question that I don't remember the answer
What's
to.
the difference?
It's
what are
vitamin
light-
K.
what
No,
would
not
light
vitamin K.
green-
There's some vitamins in
What's
it.
an
but-
example of a
Didn't know
light
there was a
green
vitamin
vegetable?
K.
Like kale,
Vitamin K.
like no, dark, like
There's
spinach.
literally every letter of the alphabet.
look it up.
Is a
Look it up.
vitamin.
What's in dark?
Vitamin
Look
Q.
up what it's like.
Question: is
Yeah.
there any of that in Krispy Kreme donuts or Baja
Unlikely.
Blast?
Told you.
Unlikely.
There is a vitamin Q.
Q?
Yeah.
What does it stand for? I don't know if it has a, also known as.
Don't forget,
murder
I
this.
don't work with
You
like I work with
ubiquinone
kids, so
gnome?
Similar in structure to vitamin K, which we were just talking about. So that's.
I
pretty
just want to
interesting.
say I work with kids, so I don't see macular degeneration very often. So that's why I
Oh,
don't
so you're
know.
not
the answer.
qualified to be giving
No,
medical
I
advice.
am.
Oh,
The vitamins are the A-Reds vitamins. You can read off what's in them.
okay.
We start
So-
people with intermediate macular degeneration.
You wanted me to look up what dark green vegetables are.
Yeah, or what's in the A-Reds vitamins.
So dark green vegetables are like salad greens, cooking greens, broccoli,
spinach.
Pretty much
kale.
all the greens.
Yeah,
cabbage.
I don't know why they
just
label
not
it as
like
dark
romaine.
greens.
Like
What is a light
iceberg.
green?
Iceberg romaine,
Oh.
maybe.
What was
Oh.
the A thing?
So type AREDS. That's what it is. Vitamin for macular
Yeah,
degeneration.
3 down. Yeah. So this is essentially, Okay, yeah. So it is associated with vision. It's a supplement formula.
It's
It
for
contains
it's for
zinc.
macular degeneration. Studies have shown that it improves or it slows the progression of macular
Copper
degeneration.
deficiency?
Yeah, it reduces
see.
the risk of copper deficiency, anemia, and a condition associated with high levels of zinc intake. Interesting.
What vitamins are in it again? Remind me.
Um,
In the ARED?
One and two. One
Yeah.
and two.
All of them.
No, that's
The good
AREDs
ones.
1 and 2 are
It's the
is it vitamin
Krispy
E
Kreme
and
vitamin.
A or what is it?
Lutein and
Lutein and zeaxanthin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And zinc
Mm.
and copper.
Okay.
Vitamin
Oh, it says
C.
right here.
Okay.
Vitamin E.
Right here. I was diagnosed with macular degeneration in 2016. I started to have yearly eye check, and when I turned 72, okay, he's a little old.
They're all older.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what it is. It's a disease of old age. That's why I don't
Have
see
you
it
ever
very
found
often.
the case where it happens in a younger?
It can,
is
like
very
50s though,
rare?
young.
Oh,
like
50s?
that's 50.
My
But
doctor.
that's so rare. Yeah.
Oh, so he said he took this and then it got a little bit better. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, we
okay.
we recommend it to every patient diagnosed with it.
It's on Walmart.
So vitamins really, and the thing
Sweet.
is, like, you don't have to take vitamin supplements necessarily if you eat all the right foods, right?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like how your
Yes.
doctor told you to
Yeah.
take turmeric. Like I
Yeah.
drink turmeric like pretty often in the golden latte thing
Mm-hmm.
that I make.
Yeah.
Like it just like benefits you to eat a variety of foods, but you
What-
can still eat Krispy Kreme
what
with
is it?
those foods.
So
you know?
turmeric just has vitamins in it? Because turmeric itself is not a
Turmeric
vitamin.
is just healing in general. Like I don't know all of the
Because
details.
it has some
but
vitamins in it. Because I don't think turmeric is really a part of it, like an American diet. Is
Look
it?
at
It's also like one of those
I don't know.
trendy superfoods
Yeah.
of like the modern day.
Yeah.
Like acai berry and
Right.
asparagus.
Yeah.
And
The
Look it up.
asparagus.
look up turmeric like but there it has
Kale.
because studies have shown
Kale, yeah,
that
kale's a good
turmeric
example.
yeah.
Yeah. yeah. I heard.
I don't think you necessarily need to eat those foods in particular, but like the
Yeah.
more variety that you have, the better.
So turmeric comes from the turmeric plant.
Cool.
It's commonly used in Asian food.
Right.
So to my point, like
And
I don't think
Indian
we
food.
use it that
Indian
often
food.
in
Oh,
My mom
foods,
cooks with it
main
a lot.
it is
yeah.
the main spice in curry. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
I didn't
crazy.
either.
Yeah.
They
Indian
do look
food.
the same, curry and turmeric.
does.
They
It
look
has like a-
very
it has
yeah,
like
it's
a
yellow.
tan-
It's super
yeah.
yellow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It stains your fingers if you cook with it.
Really?
But
Yeah.
I think turmeric itself doesn't. It's not very like flavorful, right?
It is.
Yeah, it's like
a little
it's
flavorful,
like
yeah.
a bitter.
But
like a
it,
bitter
but it's
taste,
not
right?
like sweet. It's not like it doesn't taste like curry.
I don't know.
for
I don't
sure.
really drink or eat it by itself. Like I always
Yeah.
make it with something, but I like the flavor that it gives.
Right.
So
Cool.
yeah, my wife got me some turmeric gummies.
Oh,
Yeah, they better taste like Krispy Kreme.
So in turmeric, the active compound is curcumin.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what my doctor put curcumin as like what I should take,
interesting.
and then I was like, oh yeah, that's in turmeric.
yeah,
It's an
So I take that.
anti-inflammatory and antioxidant.
right.
Boom,
So it can help-
inflammatory.
It can help with depression, arthritis, cancer, Alzheimer's, and heart disease.
Inflammation is one of the key things that happens when you get COVID, right?
Yeah.
So maybe this will help my battle against any potential.
Might help you not get COVID. It's basically a vaccine.
Oh my gosh.
against
Oh,
COVID.
basically, yeah.
People
are
I'm
gonna
real
believe
super
that.
dose on that. We're not doctors. Well, one of us is.
But not that kind.
Not
Yeah.
that kind. Anyway.
Hmm.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
Anything else?
yeah, I think we're at like 2 hours. Nice.
Right on.
Just over 2 hours.
This was a great podcast.
Thanks. I always joke. I'm like, thanks for everybody for the 2 people that.
Yeah.
But I
Thanks,
found
Mom
out
and
that we have
Dad.
a little more than 2 people listening to these things. So
Sarah's mom will listen
Yeah,
to
Mom
this.
and Dad will
thanks,
listen.
Sarah's
Mom and dad.
and Dad. Yeah. Yeah, and thanks for all you guys who stuck in or keep listening. We really appreciate it. We're hoping to bring you guys, as we turn the new year, some really cool guests on. We're really excited about some of the cool people, including Sarah, that we're currently taping, and
I was gonna
hopefully,
say probably
yeah.
me.
Yeah, thanks again, and continue to tune in. We really appreciate it. Miles and I are super blessed to have such a cool amount of people listening, and we're having a great time doing this. So, yeah, cool. Well, thanks, Sarah, for being
Yeah.
on. Thanks,
Thank you guys.
Thanks for bringing, what was it called, this drink? There's a...
Saint Germain and Prosecco.
Oh, yeah.
Spritzer, maybe? I don't
Yeah, and I
know.
think we switched over to some
Oh, yes,
seltzers
this-
afterwards.
yes,
Kind of like in the
yes.
same vein of drinks.
Yeah.
A little
Yeah.
bit.
Pre-made.
Sparkling.
Cool. Well, thanks again. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Until next time, adios.